It's a fantastic new day. It's a fantastic opportunity to dive deep into history, into mythology, into a new chapter of knowledge, exploration, great characters, hero tales, wonderful things, analogies and metaphors to learn, to implement, to get better. Also, just to have fun and to entertain our senses a little bit. Instead of watching or listening to the usual stuff and junk, we will today with the master of history, of philosophy, Smaug's cousin himself, with the keeper of the Arkenstone, we will discuss the beautiful third chapter of our Greek mythology kind of flashback, right? Where we jumped into the first age of gods, then into the age of heroes, and now into the last chapter that, closes up with the Battle of Troy, but just as a backdrop, because today we're gonna dive into 10 years of Odyssey with Odysseus and his incredible tales, and we will learn and be entertained, and we will learn also about the dragon who's older than the earth himself, what he has to tell about all these incredible stories, because he was there. He's older than Homer himself. So without any further ado, let's jump into Open Class Doodles, Tactical Doodles for Success. I think it is episode 15. I mean, I can't believe, is it 14 or 15? Well, we just almost lost count. But without any further ado, let's jump in and let's have a lot of have fun under the sun, and let's see what's cooking. That was a bit of a bumpy start today. We're slightly late. We had a couple of technical incongruences, but with the help also of greater spirits, we hopefully came across everything. Welcome everybody to Open Class Doodles. Hopefully you can hear me well on Instagram, on Facebook, and over here as well. We started a bit late today because of that, but hopefully you guys are gonna jump in today's episode. Let's see if you guys can hear me well. Please let me know also in the comment section. And without taking too much time away from this incredible program, because we got so many beautiful stories to discuss, let's welcome today's... He's almost like now like an OG guest on this show. Welcome everybody, Dragon Slayer Commentaries.
Hey, Coach. Thank you, man. I'm glad to be here. How you doing, man? I'm ready for some mythology.
The mythology is in the house. I'm doing the sound effects. We are very poor channel, so we do the sound effects.
Poor channel. We're poor, so we go...
I love that. It's way better than those stupid sound effects.
Just Final Fantasy.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
So sorry again for starting slightly late today. Please, over here on YouTube, over there on Facebook and Instagram. Sorry guys, but there was some stuff going on with the audio. So also let me know during the show if everything is all right, if you can hear me well, if everything is fine. Can you hear me well, man?
I can hear you well. I did again. It's almost there. Okay. Actually, you know what? Increase. I think increase the game slightly on StreamYard. It's actually back to like 100, just to see if that'll fix it. I think that's the issue, actually.
Okay. Here I put some more.
Yes. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. I put some more steam on StreamYard directly.
Yeah. Okay. Chat. We're back. We got Coach's sexy voice back. Okay, we're good.
Your voice sound also really profound. You sound like someone. I mean, I've never seen your beautiful visage, so I'm just I'm guessing. I mean, I'm hanging around with you over a year or Saturday Night Hypnosis. We're talking about the most extreme stuff. Very intimate person. I don't have the slightest clue how you look. But the great thing is, first of all, I know how you look. You're a dragon, so clearly there's no problem there. But I love your voice, man. It sounds like whiskey. It sounds like singing. It sounds like you sound like a dubber. You don't work in dubbing industry, though, right? Yeah, like somebody who dubs voices, and because you're also great in imitating. Oh my god.
Oh my God, it's an accountant. Oh. Yeah.
No, it's all good. No offense. My mom was a financial controller and accountant for many years. So no, absolutely. We need you guys as well. You're part of the solution as well. I believe in you.
Yes, part of the final solution. Oh God.
I wanted to ask you before we dive in. No, it's the final solution. That was fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
goodness.
the hypnotoads and all the other sick people that for some strange reason find it amusing to watch our rants on Saturday Night Hypnosis, right? They know what this insider kind of means, right?
Yeah, no, and this is where me and Coach just talk like normal people and let everybody know that we are actually smart. We just have that one night where we just don't care what we say, and somehow Hypno pays the price in both in benefits. I don't know how.
Yeah,
I was expecting the channel to get taken down eventually, but no, YouTube loves it.
Yes, somehow I think YouTube, like the emperor, right? They want their little toys, right? Oh, look at them! Oh, this little rebellion. Let them live. Let them. It even demonstrates more power if you allow those little pockets of rebellion to exist, right? Because it's out of your benevolence, right? It gives you even more authority. So that's why they keep us alive and haven't shut us down so far in our almost 80 episodes that we recorded.
I know, right? It's crazy. But you know what? We're now gonna get into one of like the best stories ever told. Well, half of
absolutely
technically of the whole story, but the second half, which is its own separate story, I guess. A spin-off. Yes. Ancient times spin-off. Yes, that's what I'll call it.
Is it because you are a dragon? I love the title. Is it because you're a dragon that you also because over the course of over this time period that we're spending together every Saturday, we kind of discovered that we have similar interests, especially for history and all that geek nerdy research, right? That goes also into very, very deep and also profound pockets of knowledge, right? We call it always nerd and geek material, but if you think about it, like Greek mythology, Hermeticism, ancient history, comparing different theologies and religions and aspects of ancient teachings, that's actually not that geeky, right? It's pretty deep stuff.
No, that's super nerd. That's like super nerdy. That's called the profound nerd, and I am so proud of it. And yes,
totally.
Smash that like button. Whoever's watching everywhere, anywhere. I don't care what social media you're watching this from. Hit whatever's the equivalent of a like button if there's not one.
Somebody, smash the like button. No, because today, right, it's not just ranting and blasting. Today we're pretty serious people. It's, during the week, I'm the acting coach, he's the financial advisor, so we take our stuff pretty seriously. And today we wanna talk about, of course, we could have covered so much more chapters. This is our third show together on Open Class Doodles. I'm really proud. Where we started with the ancient tales of the gods and how they kind of came into being. Right? You might check out this episode because it's an epic episode. The drawing was great, and we went like full hardcore into the creation of all the gods and the titans and the wars and the cyclops and the Bronze Age, the Silver Age, the Golden Age. It's like really cool stuff. And then we went on with Ulysses, with Hercules' tale and his labors, right? The 12 labors of Hercules. Technically 10, but then they became 12. And today we're going to round out this chapter with the Iliad, which is actually a compendium of allegedly, kind of attributed to Homer, but besides that, it's a compendium. It's a compendium of 24 books, and part of these 24 books were actually the tales of the War of Troy, that went on for 10 years, where also the gods battled against each other because they took position, whether the Greek side with Agamemnon or Hector for the Trojan side. And after the war that took 10 years to win, with the famous, contraption of the wooden horse that contained, the Greek warriors that were released during the night, and so they could take over the city from inside while everybody was drunk and sleeping, because they thought that was a gift to kind of, finally seal the victory of the Trojans. And so therefore they took away the victory, and then they returned home, the Greeks, because Troy is actually on Turkish territory. And in the second part of the Iliad, we have the tale of this guy who's actually the only one, or pretty much the only one, that one of the main characters of this incredible titanic, epic, legendary tale. Is one of the few ones that is actually immortal, right? Odysseus is a regular guy.
He's basically ancient Greece Batman. Everybody else is kind of screwed, but he is smart enough to avoid
always
everything.
Figures out, right. Like on the brink of losing this endless war that took 10 years to fight, and like he had that final, victorious, incredible, ingenious idea to, make an offering to the Trojans and say, hey, you know what? You won, guys. Here's your trophy. It's like this huge horse. And we know from the books that the horse, of course, a horse is always a symbol of strength, of fertility, the king stands on a horse or sits on a horse. The knight sits on a horse. So the horse was a symbol for victory, for conquest, for the emperor and his kingdom, right? So therefore they gifted a wooden horse, and they thought, oh wow, cool, thank you so much. They accepted their defeat. But Odysseus or Ulysses, there are many writings, many pronunciations. He was a cunning man, as well as Penelope, his wife, but we will discover that later.
No, yeah, we're gonna get right into it. And hello, random lurker. How are
random
you?
lurker.
No, because I noticed like on YouTube they lurk. They like Hypno always says on his streams that the people on Rumble lurk a lot.
They lurk a lot. I love that.
They watch from far away, and so like here it's like the opposite. Like I know, like on your Instagram, Facebook, like people actually talk a lot, but like here they lurk.
They lurk a lot. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but
hey, you can also
Lisa, for coming out.
Yeah, Lisa, thank you so much for lurking into our program tonight. And by the way, if you want to, join this crazy community, why don't you go over to readytoperform.com, right? If this is the first time here on my YouTube channel, then you might as well also check out my website where I have all my programs, because I'm an acting coach, and there are many, many cool courses and training programs and single sessions that will definitely help you to maximize, emphasize, and magnify your talents, your impact, and your instruments of performance. So for a better career, for a better self-tape, for the next big monologue, for the next big casting that you have in mind, maybe you want to get some new insights, some new weapons into your system. So if you want to do so, jump over to readytoperform.com and check out the COACHMC studio.
Yeah, and remember, he's originally from Sicily, so he's got the approval of the Mafia Dons to do this. I'm just kidding.
And not only from the Mafia, today we will also discover that there are many, many other implications, a lot of entrenchments also to Greek mythology in Sicily. So Sicily is a very powerful island in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. Absolutely.
Oh, yes, so today, let's do this. I'm ready.
We're going to jump into the Odyssey. So let's see what's cooking here. So this is the old Mediterranean world, right? Here we have, the eastern tip, the western tip from the Turkish side. For us, the eastern tip of Turkey. This is Greece. Here we have the Adria coast. So we have Serbia, Montenegro. We have Croatia. We have, of course, Greece and Macedonia up here, Kosovo, and then Serbia down here. And then we have Italy. And this is Sicily. And Sicily will be fundamental to this tale. Sicily is one of the, since ancient time, one of the oldest, continuously mentioned islands in the Mediterranean Sea, and was, colonized by all these ancient cultures. So Troy was in Turkey, and to give you a little breakdown of this poor guy, and I mean, hey, always when we're talking about Greek mythology, have you kind of, realized they're always going through these intense labors? They always have to go through these travels, these voyages, these quests, these adventures, right? They always take so much time.
Yeah.
That is like the reoccurring trope, the reoccurring theme of these mythological stories of Homer, right? Remember this guy.
But there's a difference. There's a difference this time. He's one of two people in Greek mythology that does not die at the end or experience tragedy. He's got that going for him. He's got that going for him.
For sure.
Pretty rough. Everybody else dies except him, though.
He doesn't, right? From his whole crew, he's the only one. Spoiler alert, right? But it's also another.
Whoops.
Whoopsie.
Hey,
but there's
some context. Don't accept it. There's more context.
Right. Absolutely. And don't you feel that's interesting that there is a coherency going on with the Olympian gods? They curse like whether it's human or immortal or like a demigod, they don't care, right? Everybody gets to do his labors. Everybody has to go through suffering. So there is like a very strong metaphor there. So it doesn't matter how talented you are, how powerful you are, how big you are, what you think you are. You always have to go through the quest. You always have to go, you always have to go on a travel. There's always like suffering going on. It will always be a time where you need that, that continuous challenge in order to grow, in order to find your purpose on this planet. Don't you agree?
No, yeah. Like, piggybacking off of what you said about the Greek gods using everyone as their playthings or meal tickets. If I could use a modern comparison, all these heroes of mythology, they're Michael Jackson, and the gods, they're Joe Jackson with a belt. Let's just put it that way. Okay, like they got those. They kind of. Yeah, they're kind of wrapped around their belts. They can't run from the whooping.
Compare Dragon Slayer commentaries is on fire tonight, man. That is a wonderful metaphor. I totally agree. Right? It's really that. And let us also know on Instagram, Facebook out there, creative community, like how great of a thought is that? So are you implying that sometimes you need that letter bell to, really kind of flesh out your value?
Sometimes, yes, but I feel like in this context, it's more like these gods were annoying, abusive pricks that instead of like they knew there was another way of teaching people, but instead they're like, yeah, screw that, whoop. That's basically what they did. They just whooped everyone that they thought was disobeying them instead of teaching them. Yeah, sure, there were some that were nice, but.
Sure.
That was still rare, Like here, it always feels like with the Greek mythology, if you were like on a quest for a certain god or on a mission, you were walking on eggshells the entire time. You didn't know which god you were gonna piss off and how they were gonna punish you. So it was more like, oh, YOLO, let's do it. Whatever comes. Hopefully, I don't die. If my friends die, oh boy. I'm gonna have to deal with their family members later who will want to claim vengeance.
That's so fascinating that they were, absolutely, that they were acting so shamelessly human. So that that a god in the end has so many interesting traits that we find despicable, but when we're seeing them applied to a god, there it makes perfect sense. So we have always this imposter syndrome when we are performing at a certain level, right? We don't deem it to be good enough. We always pick our art apart. We always criticize our delivery. We always kind of point to our content, denigrate all of our mistakes, right? We always double down on what we're doing negatively. Our mind loves to see everything as a threat instead of enjoying the process of creating. But hey, if it's an icon slipping up, making mistakes, ruining its career, and then coming back, then it's our hero. Oh, look at him, like he made this glorious comeback. Oh, what a great guy he is. What a beautiful warrior she is, right? There we admire the pit holes of the character, right? We totally accept that these beautiful and famous people, that they have their holes in their souls and they have their little dark, dirty caverns and secret. But if it's us, no, we apply way harder rules and we judge ourselves way more severe. How crazy is that?
No, yeah, it's that's just a thing that human beings do, because we can never just accept that we're fine, Sure, there's always areas to improve on, but I think that, our brains are just wired to always find the smallest detail. It's like that survival mode wiring that's deeply connected to us. And so as a result, the main function is to always find something wrong, because that wrong can lead to possible improvement and prevent a potential misfortune. And so it's like, but it becomes but it becomes an endless cycle at that point, where it's like you're never accepting that there's a point where that has to end, and you have to look at the big picture. And that's how I usually see it with most of Greek mythology. And it's sort of in the concept of these gods, especially you'll see it in the story a lot, and with like their creations, their illegitimate children that kind of were just thrown out there like deadbeats.
Yes, all over the place.
Yeah, what's that? What's that? A Cyclops?
Half of the Olympian god. Yeah, Polyphemus. I mean, he's the son of Poseidon, right?
Yeah, he's like that kid. He's like that trust fund kid that never sees his dad, but like his dad throws him money, gives him a little place to live, so he shuts up and he doesn't complain. He doesn't badmouth him.
But let's go. Absolutely. No. But I love that take. I love that take. And just before, because I realized last time, and also due to the feedback, like it's kind of hard to keep track of everything. So really, really roughly. I mean, I tried to give people a bit of context how this whole thing is. So like what we have from the Iliad, what we have recovered from those historical pieces that are attributed allegedly to Homer, these are fragments of books, 24 books that describe, back and forth. It's not really chronological. It's written in a diadactical hexameter. Hexameter means that there is a certain rhythm how these old poems in Old Greek were pronounced and were kind of, spoken out. So there is a certain also sonar value to the poems that we can't really reconstruct or re-exhibit. We can go through the story, and the story, of course, has analogies and metaphors that are also leaning into, into the realm of faith, of religion, of science. But what the sonar quality kind of captures is a different tale that we can't retail anymore. That will be lost forever because we don't really know how these actors, they were kind of, enacting these ritualistic dramas and telling about the Iliad and the intrusion and the invasion of the gods into humans' affairs, right? All this stuff, I mean, on an oral level is lost, of course. But what we have is this collection of 24 books that we actually found older copies. We don't have, of course, the original writings. And one day, one open class doodle with my man Dragonslayer, we're going to dive into what we actually have in terms of, accountable history, right? Because a lot of stuff is actually way younger, also from the drawings and everything that we have. But let's say 8 BC, roughly, this guy Homer, right, kind of has written down with his team this incredible compendium of these old and ancient stories. And one of those stories were these 24 books where we have the Battle of Troy, where we have the intrusion of the gods into human affairs and all the connections and the relationships that sprang off of it, and all the adventures that were actually spawning off this initial story that till today has kept the minds and the hearts, of authors, of journalists, of history writers, of researchers, of playwrights, burning, right? This stuff, allegedly over 2,000 years old, has still now hasn't lost a grain of its fascination. And there's so many interesting metaphors, so many stuff that we can reconduct to our own behavior, to our own business, to our own performances, that we can learn from these books and kind of, see where the core, let's say those. Sometimes we deal with stuff in today's literature or in today's culture, even in how we transmit our values, that is actually way older. And if you know the core of stuff, the actually origin, or as close as possible to the root, to the origin of a word's meaning, of its real expression, then you can deal way better also with the problem. So Dragonslayer Commentaries and I, we're inviting you guys to dive deep into these matters, to have fun while exploring these sometimes absurd stories, because somehow the story of these celestial, powerful beings of immortal character tell us a very human, fragile, heartfelt story that we can use for our own imagination.
No, yeah. Again, Coach is amazing at doing these introductions. That's why I just sit back and enjoy the narration before we begin, because I'm trying not to derail anything, because I am fascinated with Greek mythology as him. So, but yes. I'm gonna keep it straight now. Okay, I'm gonna keep it straight.
You can derail. Here you can derail. So let me get this straight. On Saturday Night Hypnosis, where you're not supposed to derail, you derail all the time. Here, you have permission.
But I like
permission to derail. No,
oh God.
Okay.
Well,
thank you.
Well,
thank you,
I mean,
so
I mean, let's start. Please. I mean,
sure.
Let's start.
So Homer starts in book 5. Actually, that's the pretty interesting thing. He starts right in the middle of the tale, right after the Battle of Troy. Over here in Turkey, Achilles, Hector, Paris, Helena, the whole Battle of Troy. Maybe we'll do an episode about that because it's a highly fascinating one. Don't you agree?
That's a very we should do it eventually because that's a very fascinating battle overall. It's like because at the end of the day, through archaeological discoveries like over 100 years ago at this point, that we found out this city was real, and it may even have. They're still doing excavations on it, but they may have an even older layer below it that
there are older layers below it.
That could indicate that maybe the mythical battle did happen all along, but maybe not as fantastical as one-sided as it was described by Homer. Because you can tell a lot of favoritism for the Greeks here.
Who we have here? This is Cannoli Sasquatch on the show. Cannoli. Hello, everyone. What's up,
Cannoli? Welcome.
Welcome. Yes, you really need to read the Odyssey. It's an incredible masterpiece. I mean, the Iliad itself, of course, it's hard to read, like I said, because we don't have the rhythmical understanding, but we can get very close to it. But still, after kind of reading yourself into it, maybe also forcing yourself a little bit too into the rhythm, you will discover its power. It's like, wow, it's incredible what this rhythm, what the story does to you. And you feel there. The crazy thing about what we're about to tell you guys is this is a mythological account that somehow is also linked to actual archaeological founding. So in a way, Troy, the Battle of Troy, and subsequently also the Odyssey, right? If the Battle of Troy was real and Troy was like an accurate city, like an actual town that really existed, so the Odyssey and everything that we're telling you today, as crazy as it sounds, might be also true to some extent. Isn't that is the crazy thing, because Heinrich Schliemann, the German archaeologist that set out to find Troy, right? He was laughed at. He was kicked out almost of the academic society in Berlin. Everybody laughed at him. It's like, what are you trying to do? You're trying to prove that Troy was real? Yeah, good luck. There is a blind poet, which existence is not even, kind of, we don't even have evidence for his real existence, that lived almost 3,000 years ago. And he wrote in rhyme form about a battle. And you want to try to find the city that he was talking about? And Schliemann pretty much said, yep. That's exactly
that's like somebody finding. I hate saying this, but like imagine. Yes. Unfortunately,
I agree.
Unfortunately, that movie, it didn't
because
deliver.
They were just focusing on fucking battle scenes. The Battle of Troy, we'll discover this also a little bit today. It was all about cunningness. It was all about strategy. It was all about also. What is
drama? A lot of
drama.
And Paris was. I mean, I hate to say this, but like Paris was painted to be like the biggest idiot in history, like the horniest idiot in Greek history. Even though like every dude in this time period was horny, but they knew how to keep it in check. This dude was just a victim of like,
of course, he's Paris,
of the worst bet. Like if we go by Homer's account, this dude was a victim of a shitty bet that one dude. Like literally one dude got nagged by 3 women and he knew whichever answer he gave, he was screwed. So he threw it on this random dude that had nothing to do with it. But that's for another time. I'm not going to derail. No. We're going to focus on the fact that...
Are you sure?
Yes. And to start it off so that Coach can do this wonderful narration, I will tell you how the story begins. Basically, Odysseus has just finished the Battle of Troy and the city... was basically sacked by the Greeks the same way how our malls were sacked during the BLM protests. Yes. And afterwards,
and also every weekend in Frisco.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yes, you are absolutely correct. But after the whole sack of Troy, our dashing hero Odysseus, being the regular dude that he is, at this point he's tired of war. He's been stuck there for years. He just wants to go back to his wife and
after
son.
10 years,
yes,
mind
10
you, right?
years. Yes, 10
Penelope
years.
had no chance to see his husband, see her husband for 10 years. And Telemachus grew up being a man now, right?
Yes,
and waiting
that's
for his
true.
father to come back home.
Yeah, and so he just wants to go home. You know how you guys feel after like a long shift of work. Just
beautiful
imagine a
ship
10-year
here.
imagine a 10-year shift. And yes, this is a good design, by the way.
Right?
It's actually pretty accurate. Yeah,
It's pretty much what we can get from the drawing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, but no, it's actually a pretty good one though. But
so he sets
yes,
off
Hunty,
from
I know.
Troy.
I'm not. Hunty's here, dude.
Hunty's here? What is going on? What is?
Oh my god!
Hunty? Thank you so much, man, for stopping.
I just said. I guess I said I made you sound sexy. So now they're coming because the sexy coach voice.
Thanks, Hunty, for stopping by. And I totally agree. Like, how crazy is that? Here, he has the permission to derail, and he does it. On Saturday night, when he should keep everything coincide. I mean, I'm the first one to derail as well. So, I could shut up at this point.
Maybe two derailers canceled their derailing out.
True,
is it like
negatives
that?
create a positive. True,
yes.
True. This is like an electromagnetic effect that we are creating.
Yes.
I love that.
Imagine that. It actually.
Okay, let's stick to the story,
Yes.
Dragon Slayer.
Yes,
Why are you
yes, yes, yes.
derailing my show? Right?
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
So, Odysseus, he travels back to Ithaca. No, absolutely, because he wants, and he literally is inside of his home that he hasn't seen for 10 long, like excruciating years of battles and of inventions and deceptions and contraptions in order to win the resistance of the gods, mind you, as well, and of those heroes. And he has Ithaca, his homeland, which is another word for Greece, as his homeland in sight, right? And he's actually the king of Ithaca as well. And so he wants to kind of, think about what he has for dinner and kind of, hugging his Penelope and taking a shower and maybe having some quality time with his wife. And all of a sudden, Poseidon, who is still pissed, right? We get this from Homer. Like, Poseidon is still very pissed because he sided with the heroes of Troy and he lost also a bet to the gods. Poseidon always loses like bets, right? He lost against Athena, he loses against the Olympian gods, betting on Troy and losing that. And so he was really, really pissed. And Odysseus, how do you pronounce him? I love the way you pronounce him, is way better. Odysseus.
What?
Odysseus?
You mean
Odysseus?
Oh, Odysseus?
Odysseus, right?
Odysseus, yeah. I mean, I could go a little bit over pronouncing and be like, oh yes, Odysseus. I mean, like that's a little bit too,
right? Maybe a little too much.
That's a bit too much. Too much sexiness. Let's downgrade it.
And Poseidon thinks, you know what? 10 years haven't been enough, sucker. Right? You, the mortal, cunning, super strategic, smart sucker. No, you have to suffer 10 years of confusion, trials, and labors before you get allowed, if you survive, of course, mind you, before you get allowed to come back home to your wife and your son. So again, another 10 years that he has to kind of, suffer all sorts of turmoils and everything else. So Homer gets us now from book 5, right? Shortly before arriving, he jumps into the story like Ernest Hemingway. He jumps into the story and says, like, okay, he's coming back, and then all of a sudden, no way. And so the storm that gets created by Poseidon, because he doesn't want Odysseus to come back home, kind of, brings his ship. He had many ships back then. He was it was like a nice little armada when he started. Brings a ship to the island of Sicily for the first time, and there he he encounters Polyphemus, who is the son of Poseidon as well, who lives there in a cave and actually has a flock of sheep, right? And being very hungry and such, they thought, hey, there are a lot of sheep, there is no one around, let's eat those sheep. But Polyphemus, right, who was resting in a cave, comes out and discovers that his flock, right, his flock was eaten up by these these rebels, by these Greek people that were also hated by his father. So he captures them and puts them all into a cave, into little cages, into his cavern. And before the adventure actually starts, right, Odysseus risks to lose everything right off the bat, which is very interesting, right? There is as soon, yes, poor Poseidon, yeah, he's losing bets all the time. Like, I don't know.
But he's also an asshole, so.
yes, he's an asshole for sure.
Like Hunty, there's like these levels. Poseidon went from like, oh, likable a-hole to like, okay, yes. I hate you already. Like, he already screwed
because
up
it's
too
always
hard.
wet. I can see why he's pissed. He lost the bet. Like Hades, at least is, he lives in the, close to Tartarus, but at least it's dry, right? He's always in this wet and moisty kind of environment. I can see why he's pissed, right? And and Zeus lives up there on Mount Olympus. He has it nice. It's warm. It's beautiful. He can wear his tunic and nothing else. So it's kind of a luxury living up there, right?
Yeah, I hate saying this quote because it brings back very traumatizing memories. But in this case, in Greek mythology, with Poseidon, you remember the quote, "The sea is always right."
Why do you do this?
Well,
it's torture. It's torture.
It's accurate here, so
it's true. Unfortunately,
it's accurate in this case with Poseidon. Yes, there was some reason. I will give him credit for that, at least, because I could use it in a joke. But yeah, this dude. Yeah, but I'm telling you, Poseidon is up there in the top 3, bro. Like Zeus is just too obsessed with. Yeah, Zeus just can't keep his pants up. Okay, the Poseidon, slightly different, but he's brutal, and he is flippant, and then you'll see this a lot. Yeah.
Speaking of which, we have a brutal like to view ratio right now, guys. So once you're here, why don't you mind doing that?
Yes.
Yes. Smash the like button. I mean, we have a couple of viewers. It's beautiful that the creative community growing, that the open class tools are well received. So show the algorithm also what you cherish and value the most. So you get also recommended content that is similar, and just smash the like button over here for this value proposition that we're giving you, and also subscribe to this good man's channel because he has an amazing channel. He has great content. It's super funny. His videos are tearing everything apart, but with style, with elegance, and with nice word combinations, and his intonations and sound imitation, his voices he does are just hilarious. So check out Dragon Slayer Commentaries channel and subscribe to his content as well.
Thank you so much, man. And you know what, everyone? Again, do what he said. Hit that like button. You know you want to. You know you want to hear Coach's sexy voice over and over again. So how about you click that button so that more people can hear his sexy voice? Come on.
We have to record the song.
Have to record the song. Right. Back to the story.
Story.
Yeah,
Dude opens up in book number 5. Then he shows us what Odysseus does through book 9 and 11. We have the trials. And there is something interesting that I wanted to point out, and we will go back to to the Odyssey in a second. I don't know. I don't believe that's coincidence, man, because there is no such thing as coincidence. When we're talking about ancient writings, these stories, everything is there for a reason. So check this out. So He's on this island of the Chaconis, eating the lotus, eater of Chaconis. Then he has to fight the Cyclops. Then he has to overcome Circe. And then he is on the island of Calypso, and there are a lot. There are a lot of seas, and I mean that seriously. It's Cyclone, Cyclops, Circe, Calypso. So there is this emphasis of these words that start with the letter C. And since this is Homer, and everything is encrypted also in a numerical value, everything has also a sonar value to these people. We know that back in the days, a letter also had a numerical value, not just a phonetical value. So there are a lot of 3s, right? Because this is the third letter of the alphabet, right? So there are a lot of 3s. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Homer wanted to kind of point out something here. He wanted to give us the Trinity. Every time he was facing, Odysseus was facing one of his trials. He was facing the Trinity. He was always facing these tri-stellar constellations, always the sea, right? It's the Cyclones, the Cyclops, it's Cerseus, Calypso, right? 3, 3, 3 all the time.
And there's an interesting part about it too. You know, the number 3 in some religious and esoteric circles not only stands for, like, you could say the most physical of the physical realms, if you will, but that is when, you know, the individual themselves, you know, accept who they are as an individual. They recognize that they are intelligent, but that they are also a individual person. Yeah, right. Their ego comes into play, but also there are multiple meanings for the number 3. But in general, the number 3 is sometimes used as a way. It's sort of like an omen of creativity, communication, optimism, and curiosity. And yes, you can do this through a simple Google search, but it's been hinted at to many different aspects, because these focus a lot on the physical and mental aspects of that number. So, for example, Odysseus has to be very creative with his solutions. He learns or has to learn how to properly communicate with not only his men, but sometimes some of the creatures that he's facing in order to overcome certain challenges. He is always very optimistic about, you know, making it home, which is important, because if he wasn't if he didn't have that hope, which is a big deal in Greek mythology, you know, the whole concept of hope. Watch our what was it, 14, I believe? Watch number 14 of the Open Class Doodles, because they emphasize a lot about hope, especially Pandora's box. And he was also very curious. Unfortunately, half the time it was not a good idea, and so and most of the time was his men being way too curious and screwing him over, and a lot of people over. But other times it was actually very good. So if you will, these see you next time, Lisa.
See you next time, Lisa. Thanks so much for stepping by. Have a good night.
Yeah, you as well. And hey, if you want to catch up on the rest, just remember to watch the replay, okay? It'll be here.
It will be here.
The live will be gone soon. We'll be here because this will last for as long as possible. But seriously, like I feel like maybe it's because of the naming. Maybe we are either onto something, or that was meant to be, and we're just now figuring this out because of how much time has passed. But that's just my take on it.
I think you're spot on. I think there is definitely something there. Maybe we're not seeing the full picture, but also because we don't have the original material, and it's difficult to kind of reverse engineer and figuring back, like retrospectively out what this is. But, you know, also here, like, of course, 24 books, it's 12, you know, doubled or mirrored, if you want to call it so, right? So the number 12, we already know it's a majestic number. It's called the majestic 12 for a reason, right? The 12 steps of Horus, the 12 hours of the day, the 12 passages of the night. And so book 24 gives me the idea that we're talking about duality, the 2 days, right? The 2 equinoxes, right? Where day and night are at the same length, right? And these are magical passages. I mean, there is a reason why Plato calls his great circle, or the great work, it's the circle of 26,000 years almost, where we have the precession of the equinoxes, right? Where we have those counts where the clock goes through the cycle of all zodiacal signs, where the sun gets born in each and every one of these signs for the entirety of the duration in the sky, which is 26,000 years in total if you go through all 12 signs. So again, we have the number 12, the number 24, the number 6, and the number 3. These are all, you know, numerical values that we're also kind of codifying a certain message, a subliminal message for the inhabitants back then. Because nowadays for us, it's kind of easy to sometimes dissect. But back in the days, you had no smartphone. You had no possibility maybe to write down stuff. So playing with these numerical values made you also remember them easily, because they were related to, you know, your environmental occurring. So there was a correlation between the stories and the phenomenon of nature.
No, yeah, you're correct. It's always very interesting that it always goes back to those core numbers. It's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like and there, there's a reason why the Trinity and like the concept of three exist anyway. There's,
Yeah.
it's why Tesla said long ago, like the keys to like figuring out the universe or getting answers about that is numbers 3, 6, and 9, because
Yes.
3 is single, 6 is double, 9 at that point. Yeah, I can see where he's coming with 9, but it's always like increasing by twofold. But I
Mm-hmm.
maybe if he had lived longer and gotten more knowledge, he would have mentioned 12. But it's still correct, It's sort
Yes.
of like
Absolutely.
from ones comes two, and from two comes three, and it just multiplies endlessly, and hence you get a basis for the fabric of existence. And so
Oh, absolutely.
the ancient Greeks used this knowledge, and implemented it, is secretly or openly in a lot of their works, including that of Homer. Which it doesn't matter if he did or did not exist. What matters is that at the time this was written, or that we suppose that it was approximately written in, it is it is showing you that perception of Greek culture at the time based off of these poems.
Yes.
So
And let's not forget one thing: the Greeks. Like, we don't have Crete here as an island, Ron, and I'm sorry for that. But the Greeks,
oh,
the
yeah.
Minoan
Yes.
culture that started over here in Crete, that is not visible on this map, right? We just erased it now.
No, this is
But
not an old map from Atlantis that says Crete was under the ocean. No. It's
nothing
just
like
Coach.
that. It
Coach
was
ran out of
post
space.
right. I ran out of space. It didn't look good, so I kind of omitted Crete. But actually, and already you can hear the phonetical etymology, like the relativeness of the word Crete and Greek, Crete
Yes.
and Greece. So actually, what we call Greece, or the empire of the Greeks, were actually city-states. Ithaca was one, Athens was one. We had many cities that were also spanning into Turkish territory. Remember, till 1926, everything that was Greek was also Turkish, because it was the Ottoman Empire that then broke up with their Greek territory, forced the Greeks that were living in Turkey to go back, to emigrate back to Greece, and the Ottomans, the Turks that were living in Greek territory, they were called back to come back to Turkish territory, because Kemal Ataturk, the new Republican founder of 26 and 27, kind of declared this now the secular state and not anymore a caliph state, or let's say, the state of faith. Now it was a state of of a parliament, of a republic. And Crete was the actually origin of the Minoan culture, or what we think the Minoan culture is. And the Minoan culture, in a nutshell, is sort of a bridge between Greece and Minor Asia that is here. The Phoenicians, the Chaldeans, the Tyre Empire, everybody who was from Minor Asia, and also parts of the Egyptian Empire and the Lebanese Empire, they were coming to Crete, because Crete was then the cradle of culture, 2500, 3000 BC. And that swapped over then later on to what we now to call the territory of Greece. So this is actually how the story evolved. And here we have, I think, also an account of, what happened back then. Sort of, we had wars, we had turmoil, and this poor Odysseus,
And the
he
weather
couldn't-
sucked at certain points.
really, really, really bad.
Really?
We had storms all over the place. Here we have Carides. I couldn't place it in because it looked. Carides was one underworld demon, if you want to call it, like sort of a demon,
It
like
looks like
sort
a
of.
kraken, right? If I believe.
It's a
Similar
it's
like a kraken, right?
And that was creating a whirlpool. And the funny thing is, a lot of the story of the Iliad is actually playing in Sicily, my homeland, where I was born, here on the appendices of Mount Etna. So that's really, really cool for me. And actually, I want to.
We got a mafia don. We got a mafia don back then. Of course, they're gonna still keep. You're gonna keep that tradition, okay? You screw with the merchandise, you get screwed. You go sleep with the fishes. Hey, how you doing? I'm glad you enjoy Coach's nice little artwork. I am amazed that he's able to draw these things up so well and so quickly. And yes, you're right.
Thank you.
That's wild. Yeah. Hey, if you read the story again,
wow.
you know,
you're really scared.
And
yeah, actually,
cyclones are scary.
But cyclones are super scary. And this is like a true story. I remember my childhood because there is no bridge that connects Sicily with terra firma, with the rest of Italy, right? Sicily is really completely disconnected from the mainland. And so you take the ferry, and in my childhood, I remember my grandfather telling me, hey, there's Charybdis in the sea. And if we are not careful with our ferry, the cyclone is going to suck us in and eat us all. And I would be really scared of being on that freaking ferry. Not really, as a kid, I believed that, of course. And actually, there are certain nights where the moon shines in a very weird way, where you can see that there is some sort of movement. So, of course, that story must come somewhere. That legend was born somewhere. And you can actually see sometimes that there is like a strange current in that very narrow passage from the, Italy's mainland to Messina, where the ferries are unloading their docks, where you have the big harbor. It's incredible. It's right there. So this is, again, there is a fusion, like in Troy, right, where we actually found remains that were built, like you said, on older structure. And funny enough, the older structure points to the city of Petra in Lebanon,
really?
in Jordan. Yes, the older structure are pointing to Petra. Actually, almost all ancient structures that were sacred to the Muslims were pointing to Petra, and then later on were corrected to point to Mecca.
Oh, so interesting.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing there.
I noticed something too. Like,
sure.
Oh, that might be why, bro. Okay, now we're gonna get kind of. It's not really mystical. It's more like real life, like, if you will, but with a different name. So ancient peoples used to call what we call the Earth's natural, like, electromagnetic line convergence points.
They used the ley lines you're talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I noticed that if you look at any map regarding like the Earth grid, ley lines, electromagnetic energy convergence points, whatever you want to phrase it as, there is a very significant line, a lot of lines that run through between like the area of like the eastern tip of Africa, like northeastern tip of Africa, and also near near that area where the Strait of Gibraltar is at. And there are others that go through and between them and through other ones. And so maybe and there has been this discussion going among scientists that nothing has been confirmed yet. Of course, they're doing the little studies. Fine, let's give it time. But there is this theory that the electromagnetic lines, especially their convergence points, they have a great effect on certain natural phenomena that happen in the Earth. And when I see where the whirlpool is supposed to be at, it looks like this is an area where where it's in between two large convergence points. And so you would think, well, hey, maybe the reason why it acts that way at certain periods of time is when like the energy between those two convergence points either becomes unstable or better yet, it becomes more intense and then it dies down. So maybe that's why people, and maybe that has been around for so long that people gave it a name for it. Charybdis. Did I say that right?
Personified it, characterized it, and physicalized it. Yeah, absolutely. There is, and the funny thing is, you're talking about the ley lines really quick. Here, somewhere here, we have that hunting castle, the octagonal castle. That was also used for the name of the rose, that was actually King Barbarossa's hunting castle. And that castle is placed on a perfect ley line that goes through the whole of Italy, crosses the Mediterranean, and reaches Egypt and Cairo. And the other part of the ley line reaches actually Great Britain. It goes to Salisbury, and it ends in Stonehenge, or it passes through Stonehenge. Now, get this. The octagonal castle of Barbarossa is exactly placed in half of the length of the ley line between the pyramids of Cairo and Stonehenge and Salisbury. So there's Stonehenge, the octagonal castle of Barbarossa, and the pyramids, all aligned on one line, all in perfect distance to each other.
Yep. And you know, the best part I like about this is there were a lot of really old temples that were made not only in mainland Italy. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, right.
Whoa, that's what that I know. Your mind's going and spinning in it, you know, of amazement.
But that's you can only do the measurement yourself on Google Earth.
Yeah, you can. And let me tell you something.
I've been there. I've been to this castle. I'm sorry. I just wanted to.
No. Go.
That was a crazy experience. I was there with my wife, and again, the castle is of course built on older remains. Like always, all these sacred sites, even Stonehenge is believed to be built on top to an even older site. The same thing is true for the pyramids of Cairo. There is a fundament, there's a plateau that was extra built on an older site, and the pyramids were erected on top of it. You have St. Peter that was erected on an older site. The Cathedral of Rennes, Chartres, Rheims, Lourdes, always built on very much older sites that were there already, that were kind of pointing into a different direction. And here we're coming back to also the numerical values that are, kind of installed in these mythological tales. It seems like when the clock or the gear or the clockwork is changing its direction or changing, the inclination, then the direction on how these
you mean like the
built.
degrees?
Yes.
Yeah. So to give some context, well, first off, yes, let me answer some.
Yes.
Yes.
We can do
Vinzinger, let me just put it this way. Telenovelas and Latino entertainment, like any entertainment, I think it's entertaining and fun when it's done properly. Like with any other sort of TV show or series from any country that you watch in the world, it depends on what the plot is about, the intention of the writing, and the direction. If it's done well, you can find enjoyment out of it. I've watched some telenovelas long ago that I thought were awesome. They lasted for years and they ended pretty well. But, that's a handful that I can count on, one hand. But that's me because I don't watch them often. If you're someone that is into soap opera dramas and you want to get some high quality ones, in Latin America, there's a lot of them. I don't know about other parts of the world. I know K-dramas are a thing as well. But,
I was playing a telenovela in Germany. It was also
exactly. They're well known everywhere.
Yes.
And also when it comes to like just entertainment in general, it applies like any other place. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. We're at a point these days, since we're all so connected, that you can get a subtitle, at least in English, of anything you want to watch. And if that's not your first language, I'm sure you can find a website or a different subtitle option where you can see like the whole thing in your own preferred language. And so it depends on your personal taste and what you're looking for out of that entertainment. Some countries obviously specialize more in certain types of entertainment, but in general, that's what I think about them. And go ahead.
I think like the Latin community loves a lot of talks, right? They want to hear a lot of dialogue. It's very wordy. It's very heavy.
I want meaningful dialogue. Me too. That is plentiful. Maybe I am the outlier in that one, but no, that's what I think about it, honestly. And one thing, Coach, we did have Candy C. Marie did have a question for you, actually. When you were mentioning Barbarossa's castle, she was asking.
I was nodding. I wasn't trying to stop your derailing because compared to you, I have good manners and I don't want to interrupt you. You're taking my stream somewhere. No, but it's okay. No, I'm just joking.
Man.
Yes, Condisi, definitely. I'm telling you, it was absolutely stunning to me. That was for sure no hunting castle. All these, and this is no conspiracy theory. You can feel it. I mean, you go into that place and you say, everything here is geometrical. Everything is mapped out perfectly. There are so many points of this castle that are so perfectly built. You think, this is not just because someone wants to hunt in the woods. You don't build a thing like that is so perfect just to have like a resort to hunt. There's definitely, if you look from also the entrance portal, and there's many research work on this. This is not something that I'm inventing top of my head, and I'm not talking some college study from a goofy like conspiracy theorist on YouTube. This is like major universities like researching this. The entrance portal is the human being. It's us. And the 8 as a number, they are the different aspects of the character involvement through life. So this whole building is like an alchemical building, more than anything.
Of the soul, more like it.
Yes.
Like
so
people don't understand. Like these people were the original builders and the ones who later inherited and built on top of it, or simply acted as custodians of preserving these ruins.
Right.
The whole representation of a lot of these buildings was focused a lot on not only the mathematical aspect when it comes to the geometry, but specifically the sacred geometry that is linked directly into the immortal soul. And this is again this is not crazy conspiracy. This is actual fact. Researchers did do research into it. There were some that obviously were afraid to go too deep into that. But if you ask any well-known researcher their opinions, off the record, like it's legit researchers, not the ones on TV, the ones that you don't hear
the
from
real
every day.
researchers, because if you're on TV, you can't be a researcher, right? But the funny thing is, if you read the old books from the 19th century, these people, even they were coming out of the Royal Society of of Science, like the well-respected, like high elite academic institutions, they were speculating about this openly. They said there is definitely like a connection, because the word itself, if you think about Egypt, right, Alchemet, and we're just derailing slightly here. We haven't even covered point 2 properly, but it's okay. So,
oh God, no! You know what? Wait.
Let's come back. Let's come back.
Yeah. Look.
So let's zoom out in doubt.
You go and talk a little bit about the plot. I will be right back, everyone. I have to go to the bathroom, but I'll be. But while that's happening,
absolutely,
please listen to Coach's sexy voice.
Finally, I can speak. Thank you.
Oh God.
So here it is, like, very roughly what happened. This whole story spans over the Mediterranean basin, right? So the good Odysseus with his crew, with many, many ships, wants to travel back after the victorious Battle of Troy. So first, he's almost, close to home, and he gets derailed by a storm of Poseidon, who's still pissed at the mortal who kind of, has won the bet against him. So through that storm, he gets washed, and that's 100 of kilometers, right? You have to go through the Ionian Sea, right? So it's quite a stretch, right? Through that huge storm, he gets washed up onto the shores of Sicily, where he enters, the realm of Polyphemus, who is the son of Poseidon as well. And he's a cyclops, he's a giant. And after he, rests there, his men are eating the flocks, the sheeps of Polyphemus, and he gets, of course, enraged by it. And, they throw them into cages, and he has this incredible idea. And he tells them, hey, Polyphemus, aren't you bored to be here, right? Isn't that like a boring and sad place? So I'm gonna play you a song. Let's drink some wine. Let's have a good chat, and I'm gonna entertain you a little bit, right? And so Polyphemus said, yeah, why not? So he drinks the wine, and he asks him like, hey, what's his name? And Odysseus tells him, nobody. My name is Nobody. And this is very interesting, and will be also very, very important in the end. And so Ulysses says, Nobody, lovely, great song. And he falls asleep. While he's asleep, Odysseus grabs, opens up, of course, the cages of his fellow men, of his fellow warriors, and grabs a wooden stick, puts it on fire in the log, right? And hey, man, that was fast. And blinds Polyphemus.
Right next to my room.
That's good.
Anyway, proceed. I'll be quiet.
And here's a crazy thing, again, where we have a place that is mentioned in mythology, in Greek mythology, that really exists, right? And that is still visible today. These caverns still exist, the caverns of Polyphemus. You can go there. You can go to Sicily and travel there, and you can see there are gigantic caverns. If you go to Syracuse and to the south, there are gigantic caverns that are, unexplainable, and they are built. You can clearly see that there's masonry, that there is building inside of these huge caverns. And so, of course, when he gets blinded by Odysseus, he storms out of the cavern and he starts grabbing big rocks and big boulders, throwing them wildly around him, never catching Odysseus, and he kind of flees to the ship. And I want to show you something. When he's on the ship, right, kind of sailing away from that part of Sicily, the Polyphemus, the Cyclop, takes huge boulders and throws them towards the ship without like knowing exactly where he is, but he can hear that he's somewhere in the sea already. And if you travel to Sicily nowadays, you will find these. There are these strange rock formations sticking out like nothing out of the Mediterranean Sea, right there in Sicily. And still today, we call these rocks the rocks of Polyphemus. The Sicilians, the inhabitants of that of that side, that's Aci and Acireale, and there are some strange buildings there too. They still believe to this day that these are the rocks, these are the boulders that Polyphemus was throwing against Ulysses. I'm not sure if you can see them clearly, but they should kind of translate on this picture as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can see they're actually pretty good. Yeah. Oh wow. Oh wow, yes.
It's wild. I mean, and if you go there,
that's crazy.
I've been there many times, and believe me, it's a surreal place.
Look at him, just bragging about being there. It's like, I go there all the time.
Yeah, I'm a Sicilian. Man. What should I do? These are our men. Here we see Polyphemus throwing, these huge boulders, and Lord and behold, we still have them there. Pretty crazy stuff. So here again, mythology kind of mixes with real occurrence, with real foundings, with real phenomenon that we can see. I mean, it's crazy how sometimes these lines are blurred.
No, yeah, sorry. I was just like amazed at two things, but I'll keep the first one hidden because I'll keep that to the end. But okay. Dude, the rocks of Polyphemus, I really was actually very fascinating when we talk about mythology, how there is evidence of like certain physical areas that you can actually find where a certain legend took place. And it makes you ask yourself, like, man, what part of it was real and what part of it was, fiction? Like, where can we figure it out, right? Yes, yes, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, boss. I'm sorry. Yes, how it is. The boss can go anywhere. Yes, the boss can go anywhere. But
no, but you're right. It's somehow it's like, what is real and what not? Because also Homer also talks a lot about giants the whole time, right? And we have, if there is like, there are a couple of commonalities that you can find in all ancient scripture, and if it's the flood, or it's if the presence of very powerful reptilian entities, or the snake, or snakes being like a major part of of the core faith, or
giant hillbillies with red hair. Yes,
or giants. Giants are part of all mythologies. You can find them everywhere.
Yeah,
from Japan to Easter Island, from Alaska to Greece, there is always tale of giants.
Yeah, I know. It's just so incredible how these beings always sneak in and out so much in all of our writings. It not just like Greek mythology, but it's just that Greek mythology is one of those that has a lot of mentions of gigantic beings, but also there seems to be evidence, throughout a lot of history, especially through the writings of older archaeologists. And yes, definitely across many different cultures and lands. You are correct. And
Also in America, we have a lot of American giant stories.
In America, like there was a
this will be the okay. Let's not. Yeah. But yeah,
this will be quick
doodles,
derailing. This will be quick derailing. But there was this case where in the beginning, if I remember correctly, it was like late 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. There was this case that was. Well, yeah. There again, I would be quick. I almost did. There was this cave that was found by an archaeologist where they found remnants of giant bones, and when they asked the natives about it, they said, our ancestors long ago were terrorized by these cannibalistic redhead giants, and
they found teeth also. They found molars,
teeth and bones, like full skeletons and everything. But again, nothing came of it because one day the Smithsonian just took all of it, and we never heard about it.
Right?
Yes.
The Vanishonian. We call it the Vanishonian. Always, if you go to the Smithsonian, the evidence vanishes sometimes. Right? It's strange. It's weird.
I like that.
No, it's really like that. If every time you look into American history, it's like, we found something, and then we send it to the Smithsonian. Okay. Ooh,
I like that.
We got the Gooch on the show.
Yes.
What's up, Gooch? What's up, Dragon Slayer and us doing the good work? Thank you so much, man, for coming in.
We are doing the work. We are doing the Lord's work here by making people more educated. Because you are right. Unfortunately, there are two types of gatekeepers. There are the good gatekeepers who try to preserve whatever they're trying to preserve, but do want people to know about it in a way that doesn't affect the core message or the core story. But then you have the others that intentionally gatekeep in order to keep people ignorant so that they can hold on to the superior knowledge and profit or benefit from it in one way or another, and at the detriment of other people, because these are people that are obsessed with keeping control of the information because they are afraid of what that information could lead other people to assume or to interpret. So, for example, if I told you, "Hey, I found this set," like let's me just say some random crap here, okay? Because it'll be relevant to what we're talking about anyway. This has now become like the reverse derailing, where I actually am derailing in order to go back to the main point here. Yes, see what I did there.
Incredible, man. You're making out of derailing a science.
Yes.
It's like, guys, exactly. I mean, he's a genius. You have to appreciate that.
I am the superior man of derailing. Yes, I am the master of derailing. But one thing, for example, say I I could say that's actually a good word, hijackers. I just say bad gatekeepers for generalization. Yeah. They're hijackers, they're usurpers there. I'll go more dramatic. Usurpers. But say we find the remnant of I'm the Tangent King. Thank you, Gooch. Yes, thank you. That's actually, I like that title. You know what? Keep that title in your back pocket. Well, I may need it. I already got the
Tangent King is genius. I mean, Gooch, we deserve a like for Gooch's comment. Come on, guys, smash the like button for this. Please. That's
amazing. Look,
we're gonna use that.
Keep that. I'm gonna make a note of that. It's gonna be one of my 3 titles already. So what'll happen is, so imagine that somebody is doing research in Sicily, and then they find remnants of a giant, an oversized human skeleton. At least 7-8 feet high, has a weird protrusion. Yeah. I'm sure they did. I unfortunately not know much about a skeleton.
No. They did also in Malta. Yes. No.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, imagine that somebody found it, and then the researcher, in this current day and age, instead of just going through the official channels, just took a picture of it, posted on social media, spread it everywhere. Well, then now people will be asking the question, hey, if there is such a thing as giant humans, so that portion of the legends are true, then what else is true? What about these mystical abilities that they had, or what about these strange tools that they used and the buildings that they built?
What about magic?
Exactly. Like, it makes people endlessly curious to a point where it becomes from pebble,
dangerous.
it becomes an avalanche, and then that
Yes,
avalanche
that's a
breaks
great,
open
great
the
word.
wall of the
Yes.
truth, if you will. So,
And
but I'll be quiet now. Let's go. I'll go back to the story.
no. I love that thought. We are snowball pushers, Gooch. We are not tangent kings. We are snowball pushers. We are on top of the summit point because we reversed engineer the cultural process, and we think we have a pretty good idea historical wise how this whole thing was set up. And now we're at the summit point telling people, guys, there is an avalanche of knowledge that is, you know, just covered, right? The snow is just covering the evidence. And so we're pushing the snowball down the mountain and becomes bigger and bigger, right? Like in the cartoons, right? The Roadrunner cartoons, right? It becomes bigger, and then all of a sudden kind of it takes down the whole mountain, and it will finally disclose what's beneath, right? The truth, we believe, like on how history was written, because we're not saying that there necessarily needs to be always like some sort of shadow force that kind of obfuscates reality. Just because the writings are there, it's also part of interpreting them correctly. Like if all these ancient tellers and writers and authors are telling us about giants, and explicitly they're explaining how they looked and how they behaved, and then we find bones in those countries where those authors believed to have witnessed those giants, right? So there is a direct correlation where mythology becomes not fictional anymore, but becomes tangible. It becomes physical. It becomes real, right? Like Schliemann that found Troy, and like the many things that are, that were said about Sicily, my home country, and also the Gooch's ancestors' cradle, right? So it's interesting how somehow these tales and accounts that they contain some essence, some shrapnel of truth that kind of like an audio track from a past that still speaks to us, and we still have to kind of decipher this language. What is this sonar wave actually telling me? What is mythology actually telling me? And this is also the reason we're meeting.
No, yeah. I mean, everything that Coach says is absolutely true. Like, well, we're all about trying to make sure that people are informed and that they can use that information and interpret it however they want. We're not trying to tell you to believe what we believe. More like, hey, think for yourself about, hey, could this possibly, is it potentially true? Or maybe if it's not all of it true, how about I do some research on my own and discover that other missing half? That's what we're trying to get people to do, to think for themselves. That's what we try to do.
Listen, take a look at this. So this was the second station, the second stop, right? And if there is like a thing that we can take away as a key lesson here is if you are stumbling on a new territory that is absolutely uncharted to your men, you shouldn't eat sheeps and flocks and make sure just to respect maybe the boundaries of your behavior being a guest on new territory. You never know to whom this territory actually belongs, right? So they could escape from Polyphemus, right? They could escape, and he was throwing those boulders that we did see. And the thing was here, Odysseus probably makes one of his few mistakes in those 10 years, right? When he's sailing away from Sicily, being sure of his victory and being also a little bit in high spirits because he escaped certain death, he screams back at Polyphemus like, "Hey, by the way, my name is not nobody, right? My name is Odysseus, right? I am the uncanny warrior that escaped Troy and that has won the battle." And so Polyphemus now has a name, which is really bad, because he tells his father Poseidon, who kind of blinded him, right? The only eye he possesses is now gone. And so Poseidon, of course, gets very, very angry at Odysseus. And he will send him a bunch of storms and of course, all sorts of turmoil environmental-wise. And now at his third stop, right, he comes off course. He's not traveling back to Ithaca like he believes. He's coming off course because of the intervention of Poseidon again. And comes to this island of Aeolia, which is governed by King Aeolus. And there is an interesting thing. Actually, in the north of Sicily, we have the Aeolian Islands. Lipari, Salina. So here again, we have a name from mythology that is connected to a land that today still exists, which is truly interesting. So he stays in Aeolia, and the kingdom of Aeolia is not a threat to Odysseus and his men. They're actually welcoming him, friendly, and everything is fine. And he says, you know what? I will give you a bag. And inside of that bag, there is gold. There are many gifts. And I will give you like certain wind that will blow you back to Ithaca. And you just have to do me a favor. Don't open up the bag if you're not there, if you're not overseeing the process. And Odysseus says, yeah, sure. That's like a no-brainer for me, no problem. So he hops back on the ship. Now he's all, in good spirits. He's almost there, again, very close to coming back to Ithaca, to his home. And in a moment of distraction, when he's not paying attention, his crew is opening, while Odysseus has his back turned to his men, is opening up the bag of winds that King Aeolus, which means wind, translated, which he was gifted from the king. And since Odysseus is not paying attention, he's not overseeing the process, the bag reveals all winds, and all winds break free, and there's a huge storm again happening close to the shore of Ithaca, and Odysseus and his crew are thrown back and even deeper into the Mediterranean Sea. And this time, close to Malta here, they land in the kingdom of Laestrygonia, where again Homer mentions giants being all over the place. And interesting, he escapes from that place. He makes it safely to the island of Aea. And on the island of Aea, there is Circe. And she is the sister of Medea, of the witch Medea. And the daughter of whom? Help me out. She's the daughter of...
Mm-hmm.
She's an important... She's an important daughter. Circe is daughter.
Oh, Idia, I believe. Yeah, Idia.
No, it's Helios. Helios, right?
Oh wait. Oh, you're talking about the father. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're talking. Sorry, we're talking about Circe, right? Is that right?
Circe. Yeah.
Oh,
Circe.
my bad. Okay, hold on.
That's okay.
No.
I think she's the daughter of Helios, of the the god of the sun.
Yes, right? Helios. No, I remember Helios and the ocean. Well, by remember I mean like I do the Google searches. I completely forgot about it too, because there's way too many names. But yes, Helios is correct. The father, and the mother is the nymph Perse, which is funny because Perseus, Persia.
Yes,
ironically,
we have it again.
3.
Persia. Yes. Yeah. Again.
Ironically, 3 is funny. Yeah.
No. Here, something crazy happens. So Circe is a witch, and she uses magic, and she has a very interesting enchantment. She gives men wine, and she charms them, and she sings, and she has some herbs on how to enchant them, and then she turns them into pigs. Right, through her enchantment, through her singing, through her magic. She has that magic stick, that wand, that baton, and through that and through her enchantments, she turns men into pigs. Now, here's a thing I want to point out really quick. Like, Circe gives birth to the Scottish word kirk, like in James Tiberius Kirk, right? And the word kirk in Old Scottish is actually a corruption of the later word church. So Circe is the church. And ironically, so Homer tells us, if you go to the temple of Circe, she will sing and give you wine, and you will listen to her enchantment, and she will turn brave men into swines. That is what happens in church, according to Homer. And Aea, the island of Aea, I mean, there are many some believe that's the Canary Islands, some believe it's Mallorca or Ibiza. There are many interesting, like some believe Circe is actually a place here close to Rome on the coast. So there are many locations for this Aea, but Aea itself, Aea means noble one. you have this combination of A and E, A and E and A. So triple A and double E, right? So that's Aia, Aryan, that's Osiris, the noble people, right? So the noble people were magicians, were sorcerers, witches, people who use spells and enchantments.
Oh wow, yeah, I forgot. No, you're right. You reminded me of like the when I like looked up some research on the Emerald tablets. I always forget, like, yeah, there is actually a very deep connection in the ancient world. Whenever people describe these individuals that have magical powers or are descended from people who had magical powers, they're always obsessed with heritage, in the sense that, you know, they're crazy
about their bloodlines and everything. Yes,
they are obsessed with the heritage of the noble blood, of the only noble giants, by giants could have been of intellect or of size and intellect, either or, but of the noble giants of Atlantis. You know, that's always what's interesting.
Yes, no. I like, if you think about the Cyclops, right? We covered them in the first age. You might want to check out our beautiful first open class doodle about Greek mythology. The Cyclops back then were the craftsmen. They were the teachers of Hephaestus. They were the ones who created the trident of Atlantis, and the lightning bolts of Zeus, and the cap and the helmet of invisibility of Hades. So they were very skilled, very highly skilled, also close to magic. They were creating weapons and instruments that were so perfect, excellent, and immaculate in execution that they seemed almost to be powered by magical powers. By kind of there was something. So there is this tale of Cyclops that were cannibals, raw and savages and rugged and wretched, in their behavior. And exactly with the centaurs, we have that as well. And we have centaurs or giants or cyclops that were highly intelligent, super skilled, and artists and masters of their craftsmanship. So again, we have two very interesting accounts about these gigantic beings and what they could do. And the Laestrygonia giants, they were cannibals as well. He fled from them, and then he landed on this magical island. And yes, Kadisi, you're right. It's also a numerical value, because you have, of course, 5 and 1, and that is 6. So you have you have an interesting numerical value here as well. That is for sure no coincidence. Again, everything here, like in old writings, assume the author is always right. I say this also to my clients. And there's another little thing I want to talk about really quick. If you have James Tiberius Kirk, let's pick up this idea. So Circe, she is the name giver of the modern word church, right? And so Kirk in Star Trek is the church. And then you have Vulcan, a Vulcan elf, right? Someone with pointy ears, who is an elf, right? And L is always a symbol of God. And he was even making the holy, the holy symbol, right? The holy hand symbol. So you have Spock, who is God. You have James Tiberius. James is the king. Tiberius, that's Tiber. That's the eternal city of Rome, of course. The flood that divided like the 7 capital hills. So Tiberius is, of course, a play on Rome and the Roman Empire. And what are they using as weapons? They have a phaser phalanx. And phasers is actually a Latin word. It's a Roman word, believe it or not. It's fasciae. Right, it's the fasciae. It's a phaser weapon. It's like a phaser. It's a photon torpedo. It's everything with pH. That technology. It's very interesting what they're using. And so we have God, the church. The whole thing is called enterprise. So it's a business. It's powered by the Scottish Rite, because it's Scotty who's in the engine room, who's taking care of the propulsion system of the turbines. And this whole thing fires, its weapon array is built by the Romans, because it's the fasciae. Now, if you go to any parliament on planet Earth, if you're looking into any flag of any country, you will find the Roman fasci technology, weapon, symbol, logo, whatever that represents, because we really don't know. They say it's an axe that is, surrounded by a bundle of wooden sticks in order, but that's not really a weapon. It would be super impractical, too heavy, and absolutely ineffective. So I think it's a metaphor when they're saying fasci, and actually fasci, the Roman word fasci for phaser, gives also birth to the word fashion and to the word fascism. So it's very interesting how all these things somehow are connected.
No, yeah, I always, yeah, it's just like, I don't know what else to say. Like with the stories in general, it's it is always interesting how they all get connected through.
So
like, it's always, yeah. No, go for it. What is it?
No, absolutely. We could also talk about what a wand is, but again, we will have an open class doodle where we talk about all these. We'll have many encounters where we talk about history and nerd stuff as well. Dragon Slayer commentaries and we're on the path of enlightenment and fun at the same time. So we're not gonna leave this program. Tuesday is gonna be. We can openly, disclose this, right? We will meet in the future as well, discussing all these beautiful things.
I mean, it's kind of been a thing for every single stream is like, hey, we'll meet again. Yeah, we'll meet again. When? No, don't know, but we'll meet again, and it always happens.
Meet again, and it always happens. So of course, Odysseus doesn't want to become a pig or a swine, and so Hermes, who is a good friend of Athena, who aids and helps, as Homer tells us the whole time, Athena, the goddess of war, but also of skills and wisdom, as we discovered in the first age of the gods, being born out of the head of Zeus, being the goddess of that sided the Trojan, the Greek side, right, that was with the Greek, she convinced actually Zeus to rescue Odysseus, because she said, hey, that's so unfair what's happening to this guy. He fought for 10 years. He won the battle. Now let him go home. Help him, right? And please stop your brother Poseidon for always intervening him, sending him storms and getting him off course, right? He deserves better. And and this is what Homer tells us in the first book, right? He starts with book number 5. Then he goes on with book number 9 and 11. These are all the funny adventures and trials. Then he goes to the love story of Calypso. We'll get to that in a second. And then he actually jumps to book number 1. So Homer plays with the concept of flashbacks all the time, which is literally very interesting. I've read the Iliad, of course, the modern version, the contemporary version. And even in the contemporary version, it feels like a movie.
Yeah.
It did work. It did work.
Yeah, the Gooch effect really did work. This is crazy, but as we were having the stream, I don't know if it was just like a convergence of all the proper energies or whatnot, but bro, I am proud to say that on the 3rd open class doodles for the COACHMC studio live stream, somehow mixing the Gooch with our fun energy got me to finally hit 1K. I hit like 10 minutes ago. I hit 1K. I was just shocked too when I heard it. Yeah.
Gooch. So that means next time you have to jump with us into the show as well.
Gooch is a good luck charm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, bro.
Congrats, bro. Congrats.
Yeah. Yes, no, thank you guys. No, I'm really shocked too, because like I swear to you, I was not planning on that.
That's
I
great,
saw
man.
like
good luck
before
charm,
I jumped,
being on a show, man.
Yeah,
that's great.
No, like before I jumped on your stream,
it's exciting.
I looked at my sub count and it was like a 992. But then, as we're going on, ranting about whatever we're ranting about here with the story of also Odysseus, all of a sudden, Jaina is edging hard, and I'm like, "Why are you edging so hard?" He's like, "Oh, look at your sub count." I'm like, "Oh shit!" I was like 1 away. And
that's
then
amazing, man.
I never expected. Bro, life is amazing. I never expected to get hit 1K while I was on a stream with this awesome dude. Okay, again, if I can act like an ancient person, this is a good omen, my friends. Must mean a good omen of fortune.
It must be a good omen for sure. Gooch, you can also like jump later into the show. We can start at 6 p.m. Dragon Slayer. Let him derail, let him talk a little bit so he can, put off some steam, because poor guy, he has to deal with these financial assholes all the time. I can understand, right? And so he needs to kind of,
deal with their paperwork, which is worse, and then I have to put up with random outsourced a random outsourced Indian company that fucks it all up, and then I have to be the one in the middle fixing all their shit.
Do they know about your secret identity, actually? Do they know who you really are?
Hey, some people at work do, but like they laugh hard and they don't tell their managers, because they're like, shit, no, we can't take this fun dude's income away. No, that would be too bad. He's making me laugh.
We can definitely do that. Let Dragon Slayer first exhaust about the evilness of the financial system, and then you kind of jump in later, maybe next time. We definitely will talk about this, man. I would love to have you also on.
Yes, Mr. Gooch, come in.
Mr. Gooch,
yes. Come into the streams in the future, yes, because you'll love it. But yes. By the way, where were we? I know we're professional. But I think we were on the pig.
We were
part,
on
right?
Aia, right? We were there. Yes, on Aia's island that belongs to Circe, who is daughter of Helios, who is the representative of the sun. That's why we have Heliopolis, or the city of On in Egypt, and the sister of Medea, of course, the ancient witch Medea. Now, a little thing about this stick. It might seem like a little insignificant detail, but this thing is huge. So Homer introduces us already 3,000 years ago to the concept that there was a certain form of an exquisite wood. To be exact, most of the times it was oak wood that was used to create in fabric magical wands. And he's serious about that. He's not mentioning it as sort of like an ornamentation detail. Now, here's the funny thing. If you would go to an academic researcher that is, of course, bound to the orthodox narrative about what is true about Homer and not, right? He will always tell you, yeah, that's fiction, that's imagination, that's just crazy inventiveness. Yeah, he was just a bit exaggerating. But then they sort of get always kind of more and more perplexed and surprised by the amount of real evidence that they find. And so here's the thing. They found Troy. They found a lot of the remains also in Sicily that kind of connected to Odysseus and to all over the Mediterranean. There's proof for giants as well. So there is this thing about the usage of magic, again, that is very consistent, even in old literature. And this is really, really like the idea of pantherism, that everything is animated. We can find those ideas also in Taoism, if you like it, in Far Eastern mythology, where we also have the belief system of magic and demons, obsession and of summoning and controlling and possession through magic. So that thing about magic is a serious thing that also finds his reverberance and his echoing in many other cultures. And Homer firmly believed that Circe was able to perform magic. And so therefore, through the aid of Hermes, Odysseus gets to know about this, and he gives them the secret herb, and that is called molly. And what I believe molly is, it's mistletoe essence, because molly is another word for holly. And if you go to Hollywood, you're going to the place of the oak tree. So I believe that the wand of Circe was made out of the oak tree, and the antidote to her magic was also created out of the oak tree, which was the molly weed or the molly herb, which is the mistletoe herb. And it grows just once a year under the full moon, and you can distill magical potions, and that was the job of the Druids. Now, the funny thing is that the word Drew in Sanskrit, in Indian, but also, of course, in Gaelic, means oak tree. So a Druid is nothing else than a shaman that practices the magic of the oak tree. And so Circe, being also Hyperborean in her appearance, could be from somewhere else. She could be a witch of the West. that we also find in the Wizard of Oz, just to make this a little bit more confusing. Definitely, Hermes tells Odysseus, eat the molly herb, so you will be not affected by her magic. So he survives. She is in complete awe that he survives and not get turned in a pig. He convinces her to turn all of his men into men again, right, to transform them back. She falls in love with Odysseus, says, oh, you're a handsome, devious, cunning motherfucker. Please sleep with me. They do. she will give birth to Telegenes. This is where we have the word Telegenes from. So if you are telegenico in Italian, that means you appear nice on camera. And it's called industrial light and magic. So there is something about showbiz, Hollywood, and industry, light, and the creation of entertainment that somehow is also connected to magic. And magic is a denominator that goes back to the church. So is Homer telling us that the first practitioner of the faith that were running the temple were also magicians? That's why we have Jesus
most
surrounded
likely,
by the three magois, the three sorcerers.
Magi, yes. The mages, yes. The seers, whatever names they want to give them at the time. But, now that you mentioned, I totally forgot about that. Yeah. So, by totally forgot, I mean, like, holy shit, I, like, completely forgot, like, that Hermes basically told him. Hermes literally just said to this dude, hey, bro, there's Molly here. It'll make you immune because you'll be so fucked up that she won't be able to turn you.
Yuppa.
Yeah, and then Odysseus is like, all right, bro, bet. And then when it didn't happen, she's like, okay, give me a baby. And he just gets stuck. And you know what's crazy? That if we wanted to do like a modern reference to this, imagine the lady from the Stephen King movie of like Misery. But then after the writer gets freed,
that's a great reference.
But then imagine the lady, after she finds out the dude escaped, tries to sleep with him and has a child with him. And then you're like, what the fuck? Imagine
it's true.
When you think about it like that, it's fucked up logic. But yes, it was a thing.
Absolutely. It was a thing. And we have also an echo from the Hercules story, right? Where the Amazon leader, the queen of the Amazons, also falls in love with Hercules and says, hey, what about making out? What about us, making out, procreating? And he says, yeah, I'm down if you give me your belt. And then, of course, Hera intervenes and lets both believe that they're actually enemies. And so the whole slaughtering goes on and breaks out and prevents, both falling in love. But there was almost this moment in Hercules' story where they actually come to terms with your enemies. Again, if there is a key that we can take away from here, is like, here, always behave according to your context. Don't eat from a plate that has not been offered to you, because that is rude and people will hate you for that. Here we have, hey, if you've been gifted something, right, you be the opener of the gift, right? Don't leave your gifts to someone else, because by then, if you leave your gifts to someone else and they take responsibility over your presents, over your gifts, they will turn a gift into something horrendous, right? It really depends. Like we see Einstein, of course, that story is not true, like they are telling us in the movies, but it is somehow, as an analogy, it works, right? Where you have a gift, which is your brain and the mind and science. Now, if you give the responsibility over this gift to the wrong people, they will create a bomb that will annihilate life. If you give it to the right people, or to the wrong or the right people, subjectively to on which side you stand, you can create life. Right? So here you have the power in your hands. So this is something that I take as a key message, as a key line away from this, like your gifts are your gifts and your responsibility alone. And when you come to the the Lestragonia giant story is a lot of action. So I think what we can take away here is cunningness always helps. But here on the island of Circe, we have a major impact for the Iliad, for Odysseus, for the whole development. It's also in the middle of the books. So there is an interesting thing where Homer plays the story where we have to learn something fundamental. That magic can turn a great man into a coward, into a pig, right? If you get enchanted by the wrong forces, I think the key line here is don't get distracted, right, from your right path. Don't sit at a table where you don't belong. Don't listen to words that you're not supposed to hear, because they're going to drive you down the wrong road. Don't you agree?
Yeah, no, yeah. I 100% agree with that. And with these stories, they always talk about caution. Always be cautious. Don't control your primal urges, which our hero unfortunately does not, and because of that, he suffers a lot, but also the people around him. The commonality with a lot of these Greek heroes, whether they're mortal or immortal, is that they give in way too easily to their desires because of their either conscious or unconscious superiority complexes. And because of that, it makes them very arrogant, because sometimes you may say, well, why you say that about Odysseus? He seems to be very smart. He does these things. Yes, but he was very arrogant in thinking that, oh yeah, I just got to do this. Everything will be fine because I'm me. And then he completely ignored the fact that he has men under his belt that also desperately want to return, but because of his selfish actions, they never do. And that is, at the end of the day, the true punishment of Odysseus is that, yeah, sure, he's returned.
It's a mix between
but the memories will haunt him.
Yes, for sure. It's a mix of selfish actions and some actions that were just necessary. We will explore them in a bit. But yes, you're definitely right. It's like, as a leader, sometimes you have to make some bloody choices, right? You have to go through the sacrifice of your men sometimes even, right? To kind of survive, because the mission is more important than the single man. So after a year and having procreated and after turning his men back from swine existence into real existence, from animal farm to Odysseus farm, right? He leaves the island of Aea, the numerical island of the six, right? And it's very interesting also. And Circe, now in love with Odysseus, tells him, hey, you have to be very, very careful if you're going through Sardinia, which is the island of Sirens, right? If you go through their channel there to return home to Ithaca, you have to be very, very attentive, because the Sirens, there are, they might, on the surface look nice and sing nicely, but they, when they sing and you listen to their voice, they will turn your brain into mush, and you basically belong to them, and they will manipulate you into death. They will, let you believe everything, because their voice is so powerful, right? And they will tear you apart with their claws and fly over to the rocky nest, and you have no chance of survival if you're listening to their voice. So he creates with wax, he creates those earbuds, but being a bit of an ego like he also is, he says, I want to go down in history as the only man who has ever heard the voices, the enchantment of the Sirens, and has survived. So he tells his men, hey, you know what? Just bind me to the mast, to the pole here. Don't, obfuscate my ears. Don't clog off my ears with wax. You just do your work, and I'm going to listen to their song, right? But since I'm tied to the pole, I can't escape, and nothing can happen to me. I just want to experience this, right? There are many versions on this, but it seems like that the prevalent version also like is that Odysseus wants to make this a test for himself. Like he consciously wants to experience this. Also because he tells his men, hey, one guy here needs to have command. If nobody can hear anything anymore, maybe we're missing out also some other information environmental wise. So one needs to hear, the rest needs to follow. And
the best part is that unknown to him, the Sirens were under a nice to see you, Dungeon Master Blaster.
Dungeon Master Blaster,
and
welcome.
Yes, you're right. Our heroes are definitely flawed and make many mistakes. That's why people, I guess, love them as well, because it makes them human and reminds us that it is that if they are able to make those mistakes and fix it, even if it's not completely, but at least somewhat, then we can as well. It gives us hope for the struggle of daily life.
Yes.
And fun fact about the Sirens, because I almost forgot what I was going to say. The Sirens have this little they have this little celestial contractual clause.
Yes.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, where if somebody hears their song and doesn't die, they die. If I'm correct, right? They die, or they go insane, or they lose their. I forget.
There are different versions. One version says that they will die instantly if someone hears but doesn't obey. And another version, it says that they are just losing their enchantment. The spell has no power, no real control over man anymore. So there are many versions, but definitely it is that it kind of, it's an antidote. It's an antidote to whatever their spell is, like the moly weed from Hermes against Circe, listening but not obeying, which is, again, it's an interesting key feature that we can take away. You can listen to politicians. You can listen to the powerful people. You can listen to the demigods, right? But don't obey. Just listen to them. And then look at what they do more than obeying to what they say. So I think there is something interesting there. Yes, and I agree. It's a super, like, this is probably one of the parts as a little kid when I read the Iliad for the first time. I think I was 12. And I remember this. Thank you. Candace. Yeah, I believe that's like an interesting way to put it. But I remember like reading this for the first time. This was the part that kind of captured me the most. And also watching these stop motion movies. I don't know how you guys, but I watch a lot of these. Also on Instagram and Facebook, let me know. But in the 60s, in the 70s, they were producing these cheap stop motion movies from Sinbad and Aladdin and Hercules and the stories and fighting against those, demons. And I was watching them all. They were kind of airing at night. And I was always fascinated, very frightened by these special effects. And so I remember that was like the great part also in the movies when they were traveling through the channel of Sardinia.
You're talking about the ones from like the 60s and like 60s to 80s? I think I saw one from like, what's the name of this wrestler from this one from the 60s about Hercules, Lou Ferrigno, I think. Is that it?
It was Lou Ferrigno, and I think the other guy who inspired also Arnold Schwarzenegger was it Frank Mann, the South African bodybuilder? Frank Mann, I believe his name was.
I would have to look it up, but maybe. I think you're onto something. Yes,
he was also playing Hercules in a lot of those movies, and it impressed Arnold Schwarzenegger as a kid so much. He said, "I want to become this guy," right? Fighting against demons and giants and these mythological creatures, and that's what he did. So it's interesting. So they are, kind of sailing through the channel. This is the Mediterranean Sea. This is the Channel of Sardinia, and the sirens, Lord and behold, of course, they showed up. They were on the cliffs singing and chanting, right? And at a certain point, Odysseus, he flipped. And he started being enchanted and really kind of hypnotized by the singing. And he wanted to turn himself loose and to jump into the sea and to kind of, swim to the sirens. And he was screaming to his man, right? Set me free, right? Like untie me immediately. But of course, remember they had wax in their ears. They had their earbuds, so they were completely sonorized, insulated. They couldn't hear anything. So lucky enough, they were just, passing by. Odysseus was screaming, but nobody was paying attention. And so whether they died or they lost their power over him, and so they could sail to the north tip of Sicily without being harmed by the sirens. But I believe there was also a version where they untied him, and then he jumped into the water, and some of his friends also jumped into the water as well, trying to bring him back. And some of them, the wax was then melting, and they were actually listening to the sirens.
That's just some versions, I guess, wanted to make it a little bit more bloody. Something like that. Yeah, I've heard that version before, but I think the most commonly accepted one is that like everyone was smart enough to keep him tied.
Yes,
and that's why they lost their ability, or sometimes died instantly. It's like some curse that like they would lose their special abilities. They were under a curse that they were stuck like that until somebody heard their song and basically didn't die from it, or as Coach said, obeyed the commanding allure of the song they were singing. So
that's a nice way to put it. I agree.
yeah.
And Hermes comes again to the aid. Sometimes it's Athena, sometimes it's Hermes. But here in the story, Homer talks about Hermes coming down again and helping Odysseus again, because after he sailed safely through the passage of Sardinia, he tells Odysseus, listen, dude, soon you will have to make a choice. So here's the thing. If you want to go to Ithaca, right, if you want to go back home, you have to travel through the channel, the channel of Sicily. And the problem here is that you have two monsters. So if you're too close to Italy, Scylla, right, the serpent monster, will eat some of your men alive, but it will spare your life, and you can continue on your trek back to Ithaca. If you take the inward turn, from the channel of Sicily, you will end up into the cyclone of Charybdis, and everybody will drown. Everybody will die, and you will have to make it home without any ship. So you can choose whether to sacrifice some men consciously and say, these guys, they need to go, but the whole mission would survive, or try to take the bigger risk and risking to lose everything. Right?
Isn't it pronounced? Oh no, wait. There's the accent mark. So it's is it? Oh, is it Scylla?
Scylla.
Or Scylla?
We say Scylla in Sicily. Scylla.
Oh, Scylla. Right. Okay, I get it. Scylla. Yeah. Or
but,
I'm using the accent mark. I don't know if you intentionally put it there or if it was just like a little dot above the A, but that made me like want to like
Scylla.
Scylla.
Yeah,
Scylla. That's fine. Scylla's fine too. Yeah.
And so he chose actively to sacrifice some of his men to, ensure the safety passage of a few of them, and so the boat at least could make it. Because over this Odyssey that it was full going on, of course, he lost men, he lost ships, he lost a lot of cargo, a lot of recognition. And so he was down to the very, stripped to the skeleton of a crew just with one ship, and he couldn't risk anything anymore. That would have meant like, okay, I would never make it home back to Ithaca. So I need to make a choice here. And so he told Hermes, you know what, right, I will travel close to Scylla. Scylla will take some of my men, but the rest of the mission will be safe. And that's what he did.
It's unfortunate that he had to do that, but honestly, it's sort of yes. Thank you for the visuals.
Yes, of course.
But the thing is, like, he had to make that choice. It's sort of like a way to tell whoever's reading that, hey, in life, you have to make choices where sometimes the only choices left are bad, and you're gonna have to pick the least worst one and live with it, and that's why that's what this whole story with Scylla is about at the end of the day, or Scylla, sorry.
No, it's okay. Different.
I don't know why. Sure. I don't know why I just immediately goes Scylla. I don't know why.
Yeah, probably. It's interesting. So if that is your intuition telling you, go for it.
I don't know. It's like the way it's written.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know. But maybe it's Scylla. Maybe it's Scylla, and I'm just like overcompensating for the name. But anyway, after the big ass multi-headed snake eats up a couple fools, they end up getting stuck, if I remember correctly, somewhere in Africa, right? Eventually?
In Northern Africa? It's Northern Africa, actually on the island of Thrinacia or Thrinacia.
Yeah, Thrinacia. Yeah, that's right.
And then they get
blown away, right?
Yes.
They blow themselves back on course.
Right, they blow themselves back on course. Yeah. Now, what happens here, it's very interesting if we want to take a very quick look here. So, if in today's modern time, if you say Thrinacia means actually this. And I will show you. This is La Trinacria. So again, that's Sicily. That's a symbol of Sicily. And you have here the Gorgon. You have the Medusa with the snake head, with the 3 wheat corn thingy sticking out. And
ironically, 9.
Yes.
Again.
again.
3 sets of 3.
Exactly. So you have 3 to Sicily. It's also called by Plato, Sicily. Plato was born on Sicily. His real name is Aristocranes. And then he was sold by the king of Sicily as a slave, what they deemed slave. It's not Hollywood slave, okay? So slaves were intended to servitude. So they had a contract, but they were called slaves because they were at your service. The word slave comes from the Venetian word schiavo. And so when you say ciao, even ciao, that word in Italian, that is internationally known, you actually say slave, perché sono al tuo servizio, sono il tuo schiavo, ciao, means I'm at your service. It doesn't mean that I'm your slave, but it was that was the original meaning of the word, I'm at your service. And then it kind of, later on in time, it was used for a different purpose. And this is where we actually have the word from. So he was sold as a serviceman to the Greeks. And Plato describes being a Sicilian, he describes Sicily being the trigon, the trilateral country. And so here we have the 3 natia, the 3-legged, being where we have the Medusa in the middle. We have again the 3 weak horns that means fertility. We have the fire and the sun, of course. We have Mount Etna here. And so this thing about the number 369 and Sicily and how it's linked also to mythology is kind of interesting, right? How again kind of it's blurry. And the thing is, the line gets even blurrier if you think about that this flag that you see right here in the year 2000 was welcomed into the international community of flags. So since the year 2000, the Medusa, the number 3 and the 3 Nacria and the 3 Natia is a physical entity for the United Nations. So now this is legitimized. This is ratified now, and this is now part of the flag community. So again, we have a mythological figure, somehow like an object that is brought to us from ancient past, where we don't really know the origins, that is now like an accepted official standard that stands as a symbol for an entire country. Very interesting.
No, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of so we was making jokes about, you mentioning the origin of at your service. And yes, I may have thrown in a little Lord of the Rings quote there, right. Just because I can't help myself. Yes, thank you.
Yes, that's the good stuff.
Yes. I am Gimli, son of Gloin, at your service. Yes.
Nice. Yes. That sounds good.
Yeah, and you're right about that. The whole like spiritual connotations and connections regarding the island of Sicily, and you could see through the writings here that they always were obsessed with making that very clear that there are areas of the world, or at least in their world, that seem to be hotspots for the supernatural or for the unexplained. And it was always in areas where, ironically speaking, there were a lot of ley line connections. Or for the people that may not know what I said earlier, by ley lines I mean, in scientific terms, the electromagnetic energy nodes surrounding the energy web surrounding the entire planet Earth, where there are some points where there are multiple convergence points in the grid of electromagnetic energy. Yes, exactly. Birthplaces of gods, etc. Exactly. There are many areas like that. And so now back to the story. A big wind blow them back to home. No, I'm just kidding.
Again, they get confused. The winds change, and Circe's prophecy that tells when he leaves the island of Aea, that tells Odysseus, listen, you have to travel to the underworld eventually to get rid of this nasty spell that you have on your back, to get Poseidon really to be silent finally once and for all. So he travels to the underworld, and then after coming out of that is an incredible episode in itself that we could last for hours. He comes to the island of Calypso. And the island of Calypso, and that's really interesting, it's called Ogygia or Ogygia. And this term was used before just once in the whole of Greek mythology, and actually by Plato himself. When he describes in Timaeus, he describes that fictional discussion between the pharaoh and Cylon, right? The great speaker, politician, and one of the great, fathers of dialect and articulation. He describes that Cylon, one of the founding fathers also of the Greek democracy, travels to Egypt and wants to meet the pharaoh and his magicians, right? Always very important. They talk about magic all the time. And they tell, to the Greeks, hey, nice you stopped by, Cylon and Plato and all these names. You guys, you guys seem to be really like legit, but hey, you are nothing compared to the people of Ogygia or Orgygia. These people, and the name itself means the really ancient ones or the first ones. So he tells Cylon, basically, Plato tells us that the pharaoh tells in Timaeus to Cylon, like, listen, you guys think you are hot shit and legit and really ancient and all powered up. You don't know nothing. You are nothing. You're a shrapnel of time compared to the people of Ogygia. So the mighty and very ancient, very knowledgeable and skillful Greek, empire was considered to be ridiculed, like in terms of importance by the Egyptians compared to the people of Ogygia. And so,
oh God, we could go into that, but yes. I'll use these few words, and y'all can go into it. But the reason why is because, well, they consider themselves the inheritors of Kemet. Kemet. And that'll be it. I will not continue. No. Let's move on to the end of the story. We're almost done.
You're a nasty person. You start teasing people and make it interesting, and then they want you to derail, and then you don't derail. No, but here it is. So we have, according to Herodot, there are many positions of this island of Calypso. Some claim it to be still in the Mediterranean Sea. Others say Ogygia also means island of the west, and say that could be Ireland, because it's the Hyperborean land, the island that has the survivors of Atlantis, and even Plato talks about this. But whether it's inside of the Mediterranean or outside of the Mediterranean basin, Calypso lives on the island of the ancient, of the immortals. She is the daughter of Atlas, of the Titan who carries Earth on his shoulders. And quite funny enough, right? This is the Strait of Gibraltar, and here we have Morocco and Mauritania. And there you have the Atlas Mountains. And the Atlas Mountains, according to Greek mythology, are just born because at a certain point, and we covered that in our last open class doodle about Greek mythology, Hercules stopped by, right, to get the apple of the Hesperides, of the Hesperides. And so he kind of tricks Atlas in getting the apple out of the garden, comes back, and then gives Atlas back the world. And at a certain point, the world becomes so heavy that Atlas isn't able to carry it anymore. And so he becomes this mountain range in order to support the weight of the world. And this is the Atlas mountain range. And we can still find it today in today's Morocco on the border to Mauritania, where we also have the Reichert structure, which looks like a lot like the description of Atlantis according to Cylon. And again, this is also the place Herodotus kind of, placed on his famous map. Whether that map is original or not, that is another talk. But a lot of evidence, this is, I guess, what I want to say, points us to this very peculiar place, Morocco, Mauritania, to the Strait of Gibraltar, being a very, very ancient place full of mysteries and secrets, for sure. And so Odysseus lands here with his men. I think almost everybody is gone, right? Because here... Yes. Because on Thrinacia, that is the island of Helios, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, the warning was, don't eat the cattle. You're allowed to do anything, but,
the
cattle needs to be preserved at all means. And
literally, they told him, like, he literally said, don't fuck with the cattle. Don't fuck with Helios. Like, right? just don't. And they did. Of course they did.
Odysseus, as soon as here, Odysseus just turns away. They open up the bag of winds, even though they shouldn't. Here, Odysseus falls asleep and they eat the cattle, even if they shouldn't, right?
Bro can't rest or look away for 2 seconds.
Here, they eat the sheep from the flock of Polyphemus. And
even though he was going to talk to the giant.
So team management is not the... I think...
That is astute.
And so he just punishes them. They all get eaten up, and I think nobody survives. He is the only one who survives, who gets to the island of Ogygia, where Calypso lives, and he falls in love with Calypso, like with her. Of
course, he does.
He falls in love, and he stays there for 7 years.
Oh, great!
For 7 years.
Oh, great! His poor wife here is trying to hold off a bunch of creeps. He's over here. Right. Banging this random woman far away.
But hey, a couple of things needs to be addressed. This is an immortal Titan daughter.
That's true.
She's a magician. She has beautiful, and so he was also in her spell. Like, we can say that. It was.
That is true. That is true. Yes.
But
by the way, they get blown. So the bag of winds is this what gets blown? Gets them blown back on course, right? If I remember correctly. So whatever's left of it, right?
No. The bag of winds. This is the 3rd station. He always comes back to Ithaca, and then he turns his back to his men because he was so eager to see his coastline that he doesn't see what his men are doing, and they are opening up the bag without his supervision, and that was forbidden according to King Aeolus. This is always needed to be present when they're opening up the bag, right? And so they open it up and they couldn't control the content. And so the content comes out and creates another storm, the 2nd storm, and that blows them back into the Mediterranean Sea. And this is where they land in Laestrygonia. So they're always back and forth, these poor bastards, crossing the Mediterranean.
And then eventually,
yes,
he does make it back home. But what ends up happening is, as he's getting closer, another stinking storm pops in, or the weather. Something happens where Poseidon is just pissed off, and
for the 3rd time,
and they break his little ship, and he just drifts along the currents until he makes it into land. But then, like, he does this little, I think, bet with who does he do the bet with? I forget. Was it Hermes? Was it Hermes or Zeus? I forget.
Which bet?
Like the bet where he basically says, "Oh, I'm gonna prove to you, whoever this god was, that my wife has been faithful to me this entire time." Which, like, this is near the end where he finally makes land.
I think that's again with Zeus, because
that's with Zeus, right?
Yeah, that's with Zeus, because Athena convinces him to, like, when he lands, finally, he doesn't really arrive first at Ithaca. He arrives at Phocian, in the Phocian territory. And there were Phocians, it's of course Phoenicians. That's book 7. It's also interesting because, the number 7 is highly connected to the Phoenicians. And so the Phoenicians, they are friendly to Hercules. They hear his story because they found him naked. And
you mean Odysseus?
Odysseus, right. I'm sorry, man. Odysseus, man. I'm just jumping all over the place.
The other bearded dude.
Other bearded dude. By the way, should we take a look at how he looked? Like, this is very interesting. Yeah. So because we always talk about him, but let's take a look at how this guy actually looked. Yeah. Here we go. And there is a beautiful, very interesting detail. So this is...
Yeah, and so there you go.
Here you got your Odysseus.
That's I don't know why they made him look so glazed, but it's fine. My face would be that way too if I was stuck at sea for like 10 extra years.
And look what he's wearing.
Oh God! No, coach.
No, I know.
Go,
that's for next time.
Don't go the cone hat route.
Yeah. It's the Phrygian cap.
We're almost to the end.
Yeah, I know. I should stop. Okay. Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
But he has cone hat territory. Oh God.
Yeah, so a little bit.
Yes,
after 20 years, right?
You would. Yeah, I would not blame him.
That's true. I totally. All these men sacrificed earlier. Dungeon Master Blaster tells us, like, just for these dummies to make more idiotic mistakes. I totally agree. It's It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. No, you want to know now, right? You want to know what the Phrygian cap is. It's another. Let's not next time for sure. We're gonna talk about the Mithrian hat, the Phrygian cap, the Lydian cap. There's a whole.
We'll get to a lot
hole.
of it.
Yeah, we get a lot of it. And Dragon Slayer and I, we
may have to do further research to make sure we got our facts straight.
Sure. We are bottomless pit when it's about that. Don't worry.
Yes,
but thanks to these. Yeah, just but there's a lot of interesting stuff. There's definitely a lot of interesting stuff. So he lands at the Phaeacians territory.
Phaeacians, I guess.
Phaeacians, yeah, I guess. They outfit him. He can, But the thing is that Athena makes this deal with Zeus, and they say, Ulysses is not allowed to come back as the hero. They say, let's camouflage him. Let's transform him into an old beggar. Let's dress him up as a homeless, right? So nobody recognizes him. So he can check for himself who is still loyal to him, right? When he comes back home after 20 years of being absent. What we have to mention really quick is Penelope, his wife, a very cunning woman as well, like a super smart girl, was holding back all the suitors in the meanwhile, right? Because, King of Ithaca, very powerful empire, one of those great city-states, right? That, where it was very attractive, right? And leaving such a powerful woman alone for almost 20 years, that would have been too much of a sacrifice, and also endangering the territory. So suitors were, coming forward, trying to convince her to marry her, and they were behaving fucking nasty. They were wearing Odysseus' clothing and, kind of walking around in the temple, eating his stuff, using his weapons. And so they really occupied his house because they wanted to force a marriage out of her. And so she, as cunning as Penelope was, she was always pretending to kind of, I'm going to decide who I'm going to marry of you guys as soon as I have my wedding garment ready. And so at night, she would open up all the threads of her wedding garment, right? So during the day, she could pretend she was kind of, working on it. And she kind of managed to stall them for 3 consecutive years, right? With this piece of garment.
That's impressive.
That's impressive.
Look,
every day
I'm just telling
excuse.
you. I'm just telling you, bro. Look, ladies, look, if you ever, let me just tell you, ladies, even in ancient times, they knew, okay? Good looks and bullshit comments, they mix well, because as long as you're good looking enough, any thirsty dude will just accept any excuse as long as they get the reward. And it's
incredible how easy.
That's how it was back then, by the way.
Yeah, easy to manipulate. So all these suitors were waiting for 3 years, but all of a sudden, of course, they managed to actually eventually to find out what she was doing there, and then they told her, now you have to decide, or we're gonna burn this house down, and we're gonna take you by force, and we're gonna kill Telemachus, your son. And so what she said is like, all right, let's do it like this. Let's have a huge party, like a great feast. And if you are able, we're going to have this competition, to find out who's, of course, the most valid of you guys, right? You're all courting. And now let's decide. But there must be some sort of a test here. So if you are able to use Odysseus' bow and shoot through the, of course, 12 axe heads with one shot, with one arrow, the one who manages to do that, I'm going to marry this guy. That's my holy promise.
Yeah. And that was tough because you got to understand, this guy, even if he was an average human, most likely he was quite physically strong because he had been fighting in a war and done a lot of physical exertion to be able to draw a bow of that kind. These are usually like big oak wood bows that have at least 100-pound draw, that kind of ridiculous 100-pound plus draw on them. Mm-hmm. And you have to be either of good stature and, relatively strong, or very strong enough that you had the proper technique to pull a shot off of that thing with deadly accuracy. And, obviously, just to build up on what Coach is going into, None of them are able to do it. And the reason why is because dun, 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 Odysseus, with the help of his son Telemachus, who met him prior in his real form,
with his servant, his loyal servant Eumaeus,
exactly.
who saw him like wandering around in the fields, and then he offered him a lunch.
Exactly. And the spell of Zeus was lifted temporarily, where they saw him for real, and it got turned back on. Basically, the conspiracy at this point is, you're gonna tell your mom that I'm alive and I'm well, rig this competition to where I in disguise will show up and shoot people. I mean,
first through the axis.
Shoot the bow, win the contest. And well, once that happened, the second phase of the plan came into fruition. We're gonna kill all of them. They've disrespected everyone. They disrespected my house, my wife, my son, my loyal servants.
They wore my clothes. They were absolutely.
Exactly.
They mistreated my loyal servants. You know, Eumaeus was telling him how rude they were, how bad and wretched they were behaving. And so,
hospitality was a big deal at the time.
Yeah,
so
that was
if you disrespect
major
someone's
offense to the god, everybody, like to the family reputation. Even today in Sicily, that still kind of echoes, you know.
And yes, Dungeon Master Blaster, she waited for almost 19 years, but near the end of that time period, like the last 3 years, she was being pressured a lot because at first she was able to keep the suitors off of her because, you know, under the obvious promise of, my son is growing up, he'll become a great ruler, but there's no confirmation because Odysseus just went to war and he'll be coming back, obviously. So she was able to hold it off with, you know, her child growing into a man. And then also
all sorts of excuses and great tactics.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. The last 3 years were the toughest because at that point it's like, hey, your son's a man at this point. Your husband hasn't been seen for almost 20 years. Either you make your son the king and have him deal with everything that's happening right now, or you marry us, or you marry one of us. And so that's where the whole idea with the thread came in.
Yeah. And, again, we have the number 3 being the toughest, being
Jesus
the number
Christ.
of the initiation, being the number of Jesus, being the number of days on the cross, being the number of suffering also.
Yeah. Yes. And after that, people, ironically enough, after the whole murder party that would be an equivalent to the Red Wedding, they all lived happily ever after in blood and agony. By blood and agony, I mean their enemies, because they sure lived pretty well.
Yes, there was one last thing where Odysseus, with Odysseus with his family traveled to his father. I think the father was blind by this time, and so he could feel over the scar of Odysseus, which is the symbol of Mars, right? It's the scarred planet. So the warrior, I mean, if you pay attention to a Hollywood movie, whether the antagonist or the protagonist, they have scars on their face. There are scar face, which is Ares, which is the god of war. So a scar on your face in movie language means that you are Ares, the god of war. And so when you have a scar on your face, even like in student fraternities in Germany, still to this day, there are certain fraternities who are using duels, right? They have like these sword initiations. And if you don't have a scar by the end of your fraternity passage, right, you are unworthy. You are not an honorable man. So the scar means that you've demonstrated valor in the battlefield, and that makes you a true warrior. So the scar on your face means you are a man. And so when finally his father touches his face and can feel the scar on his face, he knows that's his son.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that part. I knew that his father recognized him, but I didn't know the part about the scar, and it's actually very fascinating. But yeah, I mean, I think.
And then Penelope turns around to Odysseus and tells him, hey, you have to tell me everything about this 20 years. And this is the famous phrase that we can find in Once Upon a Time, like echoing through so many stories and fairy tales.
Where do I begin? Yes. I forgot about that. Yeah. And, oh goodness. I always love that quote, you know?
Oh yes, it's fantastic.
It's been used in so many
so
good
many
movies. Like even
stories.
the essence of the word has been used in movies without even saying it. It's just incredible. At the end of the day, how they're able, how such, it's literally just 4 words, just
but it encapsulates so much.
it encapsulates an entire journey.
Like when Moses asked the burning bush, "Who are you? What is your name?" The burning bush responds, "I am who I am. Sum ki sum."
Yes. Oh goodness. Yeah.
So I mean, that was a show tonight.
Right? Yeah, right?
Wow,
it was amazing.
It was amazing. I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, this is an incredible story. 24 books, 3,000 years old, 10 years of traveling, of an Odyssey, 10 years of fighting before, so many betrayals, so many stupid mistakes. But in the end, like all these key, lines that we're taking away from the story, there's so much wisdom. There's so much competitive knowledge in this account. Like Homer was not just writing poems. He was writing like a guide, like a blueprint to success and to survival, a tale of winning and losing, how we called it also in the title, a tale on how you should assess, every quest, every voyage, every adventure, and what kind of spirit you should always have in order to survive the turbulences of life.
No, yeah. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Coach. I 100% do. Like, I don't think I have any more. I don't think I have much to add to that, other than when you read these stories, the point is not only enjoying the story, at least in our current time, but it applies every other time. But the point is, well, see, there we go. I am
welcome on board, sir.
Yes, welcome aboard, sir. We're very happy that you enjoyed the show. Right now it's small but compact. Yeah. But eventually it will grow beyond this. And we're happy that you're making the journey. You're going along the journey so early with us. Because I if I'm being honest, the reason why I love this kind of stream is because me and Coach, we get to be goofy every once in a while, do some funny and comparisons to things in real life or pop culture. But it's all Brett,
you can catch the replay.
You catch the replay.
You can also alt smash the like button if you really enjoyed it. You can walk the walk and talk the talk.
Do what you see there. Do that. Do it. You get good luck, and you get to hear Coach's sexy voice for 200 more times.
Also to the Facebook and Instagram people, you can join us here on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the channel and hit also the like button and subscribe button on Dragon Slayer Commentaries channel, of course.
Yes,
just saying.
I mean, hey, before I do the shameless plug in, I'm just kidding.
Thank you so much.
I do want to be serious about something. The whole point these stories exist for so long. Okay, specifically this story. This story's message is, at least in my opinion, okay, maybe people can interpret it differently.
Sure.
But my interpretation of the story is that sometimes with life in general, there will be times where we'll encounter a lot of difficulties that are mostly out of our control. They're influenced by things that we could barely expect, like other people, events in the weather, or just certain choices that at the time we made, we thought were inconsequential, but it turns out they were part of this big connection of choices that build up on one another and create this ridiculous event. And what we should be learning from the story is the spirit of perseverance of Odysseus, his desire to continue, and his spirit of sacrifice. He was willing to. He had to make a hard choice of sacrificing his fellow men because of the mistakes of not only him but also of other men that would not follow his orders because of their desperation to come back home. It's you learn a lot of nuances about human nature through the story, which is the whole purpose of all of these ancient mythological stories, is to show you the various facets of not only the human mind, but specifically the human spirit, the ego. And the whole point is that we must be better, okay? And that we should strive to be better every single second of our lives. Yes, there will be times where, it will suck and we won't be able to do what we won't be able to become better. There will be times where things will just be rough. But if we continue forward, we push on through everything. And unlike Odysseus, try not to make too many stupid choices or let our primal urges take over.
Right.
We should be able to lead very good and fulfilling lives. Now, of course, you're not going to be everyone's not going to be the hero of one specific story. They'll be the hero of quite a variety of stories, but it won't be the same generic one that everybody thinks they want. Because at the end of the day, what you want and what you need are two complete different things. And this story basically
Will you marry
encapsulates
me?
that. No, you are already married.
Ah, damn. I'm sorry. I don't want to marry anyone else except my wife. But that was beautiful, man. Thank you so much. I totally agree.
Hey, no problem.
Just to add really quick on that, also because we're running 2 hours and 30
shit.
minutes.
Oh yeah, I have a commentary channel. I talk shit about crappy movies that have come out recently. Sometimes I talk about good movies, and sometimes I feel like being controversial and being the middleman when I make commentaries on some shows. Just so you know, I will be releasing 2 videos over this coming week, and the next week it'll be on the god-awful Alexander Netflix TV documentary.
You are a very courageous, a very brave man.
Yeah, it'll be that, and then probably the week after, it'll be a video on me basically saying that, well, I'll let you guys in on a little secret. Basically, I'll be saying that the Netflix Avatar show is actually not as bad. It's not M. Night Shyamalan movie levels of terrible, but it's not 10 out of 10. It's somewhere in the middle, and that's where it deserves to be at. Right. I don't care if people get fucking mad. They go complain. They act like children. I don't care. Right. I will push on because like Odysseus, I will continue.
Like we will continue.
No, I will not screw my friends over like him. That's different. Yeah,
I think
so there you go.
Well, a beautiful, man. Thank you so much. 2 little things in the end. Just this little thought. If there's something that I want to give you, it's my next masterclass. It's for free to register. It's on the 16th of March. It's a Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guys, join the masterclass. It's so much fun. You can't even imagine. Yes, I'm going to talk about acting-specific things and performance-specific things, more about the cultural entertainment. But there's also mindset tips. There's a great community waiting, great network chance. It's always a beautiful opportunity to hop into a different topic. It's a great way to inform yourself. And if you're happening to be part of entertainment industry, or you want to join entertainment industry, or you're an aspiring actor, or an actor that wants to dust off his toolbox and insert some new stuff and some new tools in his old toolbox, you're more than welcome to join the madness. The links you can find directly over here, or just in the link in the description, or in the Eventbrite section. You can also hit me up through my link tree on my Instagram. You can find me nearly everywhere, on Twitter, on Telegram as well. If you want to subscribe, you can always get the information out. Join the masterclass March 16th. It's a beautiful opportunity to come together. You can register for free. It's a great way also to learn new stuff. And I want to close this up with the idea that, first of all, guys, subscribe to these content creators also that showed up, the Gooch, everybody else, because we're living from that. I mean, this is literally our secret, or sometimes our true identity, our core identity, and we're trying to create culture for you guys to fight against Babylon, to really withstand the power of the manipulation and kind of free our minds and get some cool knowledge and good stuff in there, so we can thrive through creativity and interesting stories and exchange. So this is a great place where we can say nearly everything we want. So subscribe to all these other channels so we can grow all together, and when we are together, maybe we're not going as slow, but we will go way further. And look at this just one last time. This guy is coming back home, right? All the heroes, all the conquests, all the what he does, all these crazy, beautiful accolades that we can collect, the fame that we can make for ourselves. In the end, what is it? Our desire to come back home. And home is always a metaphor for being in the right place, for being in your heart, for being where it feels right to you. So do everything, fight for that privilege. Don't give up that feeling, that Polaris. Like Odysseus, you need resilience, you need commitment, you need discipline for sure. But the warrior who never gives up cannot be defeated. Always remember that. So thank you so much for sticking with us till the end. It was a great live show. Thank you so much, Dragon Slayer Commentaries. It was always a blast having you on the show.
Pleasure.
Guys, we're trying to make this a pretty regular appointment. I mean, I don't know. I don't have other friends, and he's always available. There's no specific reason.
I just show up all the time. He's like, "Hey, wanna do a stream?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
No, it kind of, we're just, we just love conversating, and there are so many topics. So like we felt like before the stream, we talked like in the private chat, we said, hey, we should continue doing this. Like maybe twice a month, come together, talk about history, talk about, secret knowledge, all that stuff, contacting with you. I mean, it's so much fun. I love to have him on the show. And here we have the opportunity to kind of geek out a bit more and ramify our knowledge a bit more. On Saturday Night Hypnosis, we have a huge panel. Everybody wants to speak, which is cool. I love to be there, but this is like a way to explore our geekness a bit more in this specific topic, in this specific field. Open Class Doodles coming back on Thursday, where it's of course 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're gonna cover a lot of creative, beautiful topics throughout the year in the Open Class sessions, and then maybe in 2 weeks we're gonna have Dragon Slayer back on for the Tuesday appointment. We are not really sure what we're going to cover. Definitely it's going to be history, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can, if you want, we can probably cover the Battle of Troy, since I'm sure people will want to know about that.
Yeah,
and then afterwards, who knows? There's there's a lot of history. We can talk about a lot of topics. Heck, we can talk about ancient ruins after the War of Troy. Oh my God, that'll be amazing.
Amazing.
We can. What we're saying, guys, is there's a lot in store. It's just, it'll be coming little by little, but I'm telling you, it'll become a collection of awesomeness, along with, of course, wonderful acting lessons by this wonderful man here, the COACHMC studio, again, I'm just saying, if you want to know how to be good, if you want to know if your public speaking or your acting is good shit or bad shit, he'll be able to tell you. I'm just saying.
I never put it this way, but sure, If you want to have good shit,
if you want to know if you're on the right echelon, just saying.
I like that. I like
go
that.
Check out the COACHMC studio and on the website too.
Yes.
Just say.
And check out also the other interviews that we had on the Open Class Doodles with the Gooch, of course. We had also some other master performers like Matthew Berthaud. We had Dean West from the Dean West perspective out of New Orleans, who has a great and super creative acting studio with many super outlets and information resources as well. You might check out as well this interview. We're going to have some other creators as well on the show. Dragon Slayer is going to stop by soon again, where we're going to tackle Battle of Troy. Sounds good to me. I literally wouldn't be here if I was good at public speaking. So yeah, definitely come over, join us at readytoperform.com and check out. Like, send me a free, like Pratt, like sincerely, like send me a free trial class request, and let's have a discovery session. Maybe there are a couple of tips that I can share for free already in the first conversation, and if the program sounds good to you, we can jump into the training and work a little bit on your skills. But definitely check out my videos on the COACHMC studio. There's many good videos on that topic: how to create great articulation, how to be profound with your speech, how to have impact with your monologues, your soliloquy, whatever you have, your presentation. Definitely there's going to be some stuff for you that is juicy and valuable already. Thank you so much to the creative community stopping by, Dungeon Master, Candy C, Pat, and of course the Gooch, and we had this weird guy, the Hunty guy, also stopping by today, which was really great, Vincinger. So it's beautiful to have you here, also on Facebook and Instagram. It's just great stuff, guys. See you with the next video. See you with the next intervention of geekness and information and knowledge. If you need anything else, you can find me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as on YouTube, of course. We will always be present on Saturday Night Hypnosis, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for the madness that is going on there. Otherwise, see you with the next Open Class Doodle on Thursday for 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Thursday, you know, the days don't matter at this point. They'll start
I'm completely done. And now I think it's a good time to say goodbye to all of you. Thank you so much for stopping by. See you next time. And now you're ready to perform.